Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start over again, and my apologies for technical failures this time. Welcome to a meeting of the North Penn School District Board of School Directors, October 23rd, 1997. The meeting tonight is our regularly scheduled action meeting. This meeting is being videotaped for community cable channels. Individuals attending this meeting and intending to speak to the board should be aware that they are being videotaped. In order to meet the requirements of the Pennsylvania Sunshine Law, it is necessary to record the names of all citizens who speak to the board during the meeting. To assure compliance with this requirement, it is essential that those planning to address the board come to the microphone and state their name and address. Members of the audience are asked to limit their questions and comments to no more than 5 minutes. This limit will permit time for all those who wish to speak to the board to do so. Whenever members of the audience exceed this time limit, the board president may ask the individual to yield the microphone to the next speaker, and this is in reference to board policy 8344.2. Dr. Miller, if you would, again, lead us in Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, again, I want to place on the public record, Mrs. Hatfield, that we were in executive session until 7:35. That executive session began at 6:30 this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I apologize for the 15 minutes that we were late due to the board, and then the balance of that time, of course, again, is because of technical failures. At this time, on a little personal note, if this camera would please be directed at Mr. Berger. Mr. Berger, I asked you a question the other evening at the end of the CB East North Penn game. I asked you, how about those Knights, and you didn't answer me.
They're good.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Berger.
No pressure.
No pressure here. Okay. I need approval of the minutes of the 749th meeting held on 9/18/97 as circulated.
So moved.
Motion by Krieger.
Second.
Second by Mosey. Board questions?
Question,
Yes, sir.
or I guess it's more of a comment.
Sure.
I just couldn't help but notice that our last work session, we were told by Mrs. Krieger that there's an overcrowded classroom in her school for her child and that she would like an aide placed there. And if we read the minutes here, we'll see there that we voted on aides, and she was the only one that opposed the motion. Thank you.
No, I don't think that's correct. I
Yeah, it's
think
correct.
it was about a math class of 33 that my child isn't even in. Mr. White, Mr. Allen.
Any further comments or questions? The minutes. All in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you. Committee reports, facilities, buildings, and grounds. Mr. Schilling.
I don't have a report. The high school expansion will be discussed. High school expansion with Mr. Mosey.
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't have any other report.
Any questions of Mr. Schilling?
I just have a comment.
Yes, sir.
I had the opportunity to stop down in Inglewood, and I wasn't there for the ribbon cutting, but I just want to commend the facilities crew and the workers who did that work. An excellent job, and I do plan to get around to some of the other mods. I think they look great.
Okay, that's ditto. Mr. Wood, compliments accepted, I hope.
Thank you. We are very pleased. And we expect that we will have occupancy inspection next week on Nash, and that will finalize all of our projects.
Work completed. Super. Thank you, Art. Ladies and gentlemen in the back, can you hear? No. I knew that. I knew that. There's like feedback behind us also. One moment. Mr. Golden, can you help us with this? Can you hear me now? Is that better?
I can hear you.
But nobody else. Okay. Members of the board, we're all pretty crunched in with paperwork that's been provided you this week. Please pull your microphones forward. Mr. Schilling, I know I didn't hear you very well. Folks, no, that's not good. Tom, would you say something?
Hello.
How about those Knights? Pat over there.
Can you hear me?
It's echoing. There's an echo.
Okay, please, none of you sing anything but that. Are we okay? All right, we'll keep trying, and if it's still not helping, raise your hand or something in the back. We'll do our best. Okay, any further questions of Mr. Schilling? Thank you. Community Services and Policy, Mr. Hill, welcome back.
Thank you. I apologize for being late. I was at a different meeting, and I tried to get here as quickly as I could. As you may recall, at the last action meeting that we had a number of policies that we were having the second reading on. Two of those policies were passed and are now policy of the board. The third policy, to do with long-term borrowing, questions were raised regarding that particular policy. We referred that policy back to our solicitor, and we, at the work session a week ago, we discussed the revision to that policy, and there was still some concern among board members as to the wording in that policy. I then attempted to rewrite that policy again to bring it into what I understood the board was attempting to do with this policy. As you recall, the main purpose of this policy was, the key words here is long-term borrowing, and to use long-term borrowing for projects that have long terms. And so if you have a bond of 20 years, what you're using the bond money for would be something that would last at least those 20 years or the length of the bond, and not be using those funds for shorter term items. And that does not stop this board or future boards from doing such things as short-term borrowing for shorter terms, or if they so decide that they want to run a bond for another purpose, for a capital equipment that has a shorter lifespan, to have a shorter bond. So I have rewritten a draft of the policy based upon that understanding. Now, I just received a note just now telling me that perhaps there is a fourth draft of this policy, and I guess I have to refer to Mr. Bartle. Is that true?
Yes, Mr. Hill, and I apologize for this. I didn't see you come into the room. I understood Mr. Mosey was going to do your motions tonight, so I spoke with him a little bit about it prior to. But yeah, let me say this. Bob, can I borrow this? I don't want to take too much time in the meeting at this point in time, but I will pass out a draft. Let me just tell you what my view of some of the concern is and has been here, and let me try and get a fair amount to pass out to each side of the aisle here. I redrafted this pursuant to our discussion after the work session. I've had conversation with Mrs. Scherer, with Mrs. Krieger, with Mr. Weitz and yourself, Mr. Hill, of course, with Mr. Mosey as well, and perhaps other board members, concerning what they're trying to accomplish, or what you're trying to accomplish out of this particular policy of the board. And my understanding of that is, whether we're talking about, regardless of the term of the bond, that whenever we're talking about bonds, the idea is to match either the issuance of bonds or the use of any existing bond fund, that is, with the payback period, to match that with the expected useful life of the asset or assets that are purchased. And so what I've done, and I know there was some disagreement among board members with respect to exactly how that's supposed to be drafted, and I tried to take all of your ideas and put them in here, and I think I've accomplished what all of you want. I guess I'll probably hear about that if I don't in a few minutes. But in any event, the policy that I've drafted reads as follows. In any case where the district finances an expenditure of funds through the issuance of bonds or through the use of any bond fund, the payback period, that is, term of bond issue, shall not exceed the expected useful life of the asset or assets improved or acquired by the expenditure. Further, notwithstanding the useful life of the asset or assets in question, in no case shall the term of the bond exceed 20 years. The issuance of long-term bonds to finance current operations is strictly prohibited. However, the district may incur debt through the issuance of long-term bonds for the purpose of refunding prior bond obligations, provided that there is a significant savings to the district in the transaction. Therefore, I've essentially taken out words that apply to capital projects or capital facilities, and therefore we don't have to get into a discussion one way or the other as to whether something constitutes that, but rather this will apply in all cases. So if you're talking about a building, you determine the useful life of the building. If you're talking about computers, you determine the useful life of the computers, and you're restricted by the useful life of that asset.
Thank you. Since this would be the first reading of this policy, because we did not proceed with the policy as originally written, and this evening would be a first reading of the policy, and that means we have a second reading next month, and in intervening period, we have opportunities to change or modify if necessary. In that case, I would suggest to the board that this policy, as read by the solicitor, be considered a first reading of this policy 9356 at this time.
So moved.
Second.
There's no need for that, is there, solicitor? First and second on the reading?
Since you changed it.
No.
Since it changed it?
Since it changed, we don't need a first and second.
Yes, I would suggest that the board approve of the first reading, yes.
Yeah, this is a change from what was on the agenda, so we should approve it.
Yes.
This is a whole new policy.
We've never voted on readings.
Okay, we have a motion by Mosey, we have a second by Krieger. More questions to the right? Comments? No.
Yeah, I have a question. Would this include wraparound bonds also? And the reason I asked it is the second paragraph there where it says, the district may incur debt to the issuance of long-term bonds for the purpose of refunding prior bond obligations. Well, if you have a bond obligation, well, I should probably save this question for later. It could get lengthy. But just looking at it now, what about when you do a wraparound? You're not necessarily going to have significant savings. You may just need to borrow more money or add onto that bond for a project. I don't really know how well wraparounds work, but how would this affect them?
I don't think the concern that you voice has really any applicability, Tom, and I'll tell you why that is. This provision is only allowing the district to incur debt through the issuance of long-term bonds for the purpose of refunding prior bond obligations. If it is the case that you want to do some sort of a wraparound, then I think it should be done in conjunction with the first paragraph, and it would allow you to do that.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
No other questions?
Okay, around to the right again.
David?
Just thank you for finally finding language that I think achieves what we all wanted without having to get into the debates of depreciation and definitions of capital versus expenditures. I find the language acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Around to the right, left.
No question.
All in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. K through 12 curriculum, Mrs. Krieger.
Mrs. Mango, at this time, I'd like to defer to Assistant Superintendent Hassler for the report this month to the board.
Fine. Thank you. Dr. Hassler.
Thank you. I have a brief report regarding the development of the technology curriculum. Over the past 2 weeks, a number of meetings were held to begin to develop a detailed recommendation for a K-12 computer curriculum, which would specify how technology will be integrated and support curriculum from K-12. This past week, I met with staff members from K-12, including administrators, and we basically spent the latter part of the afternoon taking a look at what steps we needed to take to pull this curriculum together, the things that are in place, the things that we would want to add, who should be involved, what community members might we know that should be also invited to participate, any schools that we want to contact and take a look at their curriculums. What vendors do we know that we could bring in and provide some information for us? And probably most important also is how can the impact of technology be measured as we integrate it into the curriculum? In addition, all elementary volunteer computer coordinators are being invited to a meeting to share what's occurring currently in each one of the elementary buildings. And we hope to have a recommendation to the board prior to the budgetary season. Thank you.
Okay, any questions of Dr. Hassler to the left? Right?
Just a comment, I'm glad to hear that, since that's very crucial to justifying any comprehensive technology plan. And when you have a better handle on what date that, what month we could expect that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Sherrill, we need you to speak in your microphone.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hassler. Special Education and Student Services, Mr. Allen.
No report.
Any questions of Mr. Allen? Thank you, sir. Support Services, Mr. Allen.
Yes. Last week, Tom Clemens, David Whites, Dr. Miller, Dr. Conley, and Art Wood met to discuss issues with support personnel. We have a lot of work to do. We are working on it. I want the people to know that there is progress being made, and that when we do have a final report, we will have a presentation. Thank you. End of report.
Mr. Allen, this is on compensation review, correct?
Not just compensation.
All matters. But
Work
including compensation?
hours, all kinds of things.
Conditions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Were there any other support groups in that meeting, or was just those?
No, that was just for us to get organized.
Thank you. Any further questions of Mr. Allen? To the right? Left? Thank you, Mr. Allen. Ladies and gentlemen, because I know there's quite a number of students that are here in the audience here by either choice, assignment, or both, I'm going to move finance to the end of, there's municipal relations, there'll be a merit committee report, and that'll go last. So all the other reports can come in. Personnel, Mr. Hill.
No report.
Any questions of Mr. Hill? Okay, thank you. Legislative, Mrs. Sharp.
No report.
Any questions of Mrs. Sharp?
It's not a question. I just had we just received this week's ILS booklet, and inside was notification of an E-rate discount.
Can't hear?
You're not doing what you want to do for the girls. They want to hear the finance.
Yeah, we're waiting for that.
Oh, yeah.
You will.
You are. You are.
You will.
You'll be last.
No, it's coming up in like 5 minutes.
It's coming up shortly. I just moved it down the end to make sure all the other reports would be heard. The finance report could be lengthy. Aha, tricked you. Sorry. Go ahead, Mrs. Krieger.
It's just a comment for the board president and the superintendent. We received our ILS booklets just today, and inside was notification of an E-rate discount seminar coming up in the month of November in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And I think it would behoove us to consider sending those here in the district, the superintendent and the finance manager, to attend that conference. The total fee for members to attend, member districts to attend, is $85, and I think it would be well worth the effort for us to attend.
Okay, Dr. Bose has noted them. Any other questions? Legislative? Okay, thank you. Technology, Mr. Whites.
I have no report, but I do have something I want to say, because the last time the board and the public heard from me was the Tuesday work session last, and by 12:30 at night I was a little angry. I was tired of hearing from a few board members that the technology plan does not meet their needs, and that we must do the kids first, or do the curriculum first, or hire a consultant first, or hire a technology manager before proceeding. And I had said at that night that I was going to move for an up or down vote on the March plan tonight. Following that presentation in March, we only heard speeches. The board has never had an interactive discussion of the plan as presented. I firmly believe that there are 6 members of this board that are prepared to vote for some kind of a plan and would be prepared to commit funding to that plan in some way. I believe that those members deserve the opportunity to ask their questions, hear a response, have a discussion, offer recommendations, and reach a consensus. An up or down vote on the March plan this evening will not accomplish what we need to do for the future of the district's operations. We really do need a full evening of true discussion. The failure to approve a plan by the end of November can now be measured in the loss of hundreds of thousands of dollars in state grants and federal discounts. Contrary to Mrs. Scherr's assertion the other night that the problem has been that it was either my plan or no plan, let me say how flattered I am that she believes that I could prevent 8 other board members from doing something that they were determined to do. I stepped forward when it was clear that no one else would. This document came out of my word processor, but it is only a plain English translation of the work that was done by the North Penn School District Strategic Planning Commission's technology team and the North Penn School District's cable TV study group of a few years ago. I don't care who writes the plan. I don't care who claims ownership. Bring a plan forward for discussion and for a fair evaluation. Discussion and fair evaluation are all I have ever asked for the document that I compiled from other district plans and reports. If there are 4 other board members here tonight who will commit to a discussion of the March plan or any other plan that the administration or board members cares to bring forward for the November work session, I will not move to vote on the March plan this evening. Otherwise, I am certainly prepared to move forward with that motion tonight.
Okay, Mr. Royce, I heard what you said, and I know I've heard from many other board members that want to discuss technology and want to talk about technology from their perspective. I am placing now on the agenda, Secretary Weir, November 11th work session will include discussion on technology, which will include your plan. It will include the wishes of other board members for understanding about curriculum integration, about PennLink, about outside funding, and whatever discussions come about because and for technology. So it is going to be a November 11th work session agenda item. Matter of fact, I wish it would go first. Consider it on the agenda. Board questions to the left? To the right?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. I was
Oh,
waiting.
I'm sorry.
When's the deadline for us to have an official, legitimate plan in place so that we don't lose the discounts and the grants?
November 25, 3 p.m. November 25, 3 p.m.
For what?
That's for Pennsylvania, correct?
Link to Learn.
Link to Learn.
But there's others.
E-rate, January 1.
Are the applications available for E-rate yet?
Applications are in my office for
Oh, you
all
have them
things.
there?
Okay, one moment. Mrs. Hatfield, I need you to have those dates on the public record, please. 11/25/97 for
Link to Learn.
Link to Learn, and E-rate,
January 1.
January 1, 98.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
I would also like to, if we can get confirmation of something I was told, and I want confirmation, that by us, North Penn, not having an official approved plan in place, that we are affecting discounts that all other schools within our district cannot get. All the private parochial schools,
No, they can get.
is that, are they limited to what they can get because of our lack of a plan?
No.
I don't.
No.
I don't understand. I don't understand that.
I don't know.
I also had heard that today as a comment, not from any official source, but I
Certainly,
did
we
hear
can
that.
research that, but I have never heard
They
that
apply on
discussed.
they apply on their own, I believe.
Okay.
I have not heard that discussed.
The E-rate discounts is for public schools and public libraries.
To carry the discussion further, the state and those who are responsible for discounts and grants would encourage information flow and linkage between public libraries, college libraries, public and private schools. So the subsidies, if we may call them that, through grants, or the discounts are to enhance these relationships and to help to build those relationships. And there needs to be a component for that. In a prior meeting, we heard that we might be able to use facilities that are already in place at the North Monco Technical Career Center. Conversations have begun along that line. That's the kind of partnership activity that the state wants to encourage, where public schools and other educational agencies, in this case our own Technical Career Center, would be tied and would share. We talked about a T1 line for future possible internet connections. That's what they want to encourage.
Okay. You wouldn't be, yeah, but if Lansdale Catholic does something, it would have no effect on what we do.
No, what I'm wondering is if what we're not doing has an effect on what they can't do.
I don't think so.
And I just want to...
That's part of a larger discussion,
Right.
because clearly the state would like us to take the initiative
Right.
to have information linkages with non-public schools.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Weir, would you research that? And that way we don't have to operate on speculation.
But I believe this, I will indeed, but I believe this is the connection that.
Okay. Very good. To the right.
But,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, just, I don't want to leave this laying on the table unless I have a clear understanding. I heard recently that you need a approved plan to take advantage of these E-rates or whatever that's called, which is the telephone lines that bring in for internet service, that you need a plan for that. But I never heard on Link to Learn, we received last year, we received money from the state on Link to Learn. I would think that we could receive money from Link to Learn this year or whatever those funds are, whether we had a plan in place or not. I don't think there's any connection with that plan there. Is that true?
You're right. It's
No.
the E-rate discounts that you needed.
It's
A
the E-rate
state-approved
discount.
plan.
Now, I know of no other dollars or funding that we have lost or hadn't taken advantage of due to the fact that we do not, quote-unquote, have an approved plan in place. If there is, I would be interested to know what the specifics of that are. So the only thing that I think that we have under jeopardy is these, and I don't know how much these funds amount to and what it is, but I obviously want to take advantage of every funding that we have. But the only thing that I know that really applies is the E-rates. And if I'm wrong on that assessment, I'd like to be correct.
I'll provide information in your packets tomorrow in that regard.
Okay, because we would have an 11/25/97 date in vain here if there's nothing really obligated. So that, we need that backed up, and thank you, Mr. Weir, for doing that tomorrow. Is that it, Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Questions to the right?
In relationship to what Mr. Hill just said, an example would be also that we applied for the Goals 2000 last year. Now, it could have been applied for a technology grant for a separate different plan, but yet we did apply and we received those monies towards the School to Work program. So I've been assured by members of this administration that I've spoken to that those available grants will be sought for this district's benefit, and those revenues will be investigated, whether it's attached to this specific technology plan or whether it's utilized by another. I will take a moment just to say that on the E-rate, on the review I've done, that the applicant can be a school or a library that's an eligible entity. It's very well that the library plan that's being worked on at this moment may very well qualify for this. In essence, Mr. White's plan really brought the lands and the WANs towards the end of his plan. I don't know that we could have this and have this within a budget of the current fiscal year as it requires, or that it would actually qualify for the E-rate given the emphasis on the business and administrative aspects of technology. But I will support the discussion coming forward, and I won't belabor that here and now. I do believe, though, there was some clear statements made at the March action meeting. I know that there was direction for the committee to reconvene because there was a deadlock. And I know that there were statements made regarding the lack of emphasis on student access And a request also for technology to get back together after it's reconvened to tie up with finance. And my understanding is there's been no meeting since the March meeting between the committee.
No,
in
there hasn't,
seeking
Mrs. Shear.
resolution to those
Okay,
issues.
folks, I don't believe that has happened either. That's what's been confirmed by both committees, but I think we're at a point now where it's no longer going off into separate committees now. It's now a committee of the whole, and it's 9 board members pounding out a plan.
Right. And David, I will agree with one thing you said. 8 board members could not have kept us from developing a plan, but unfortunately, you did have a board here that did not want to remove you from the technology influence that you've had. Really, quite frankly, in retrospect, yes, we should have went out and moved forward with the suggestions for a technology expert with a background in curriculum integration to be sought, whether it's utilizing the expertise at the IU and seeking out expertise from our surrounding districts that have gone through this. That's certainly the number one step that should have been taken in order to move us forward to get a student-oriented technology plan that emphasized the students' use of computers in the curriculum. And that was our mistake. I would agree with that.
Okay.
Well, obviously, I don't think we've made any mistakes. As a matter of fact, the aspect that Dr. Hassler's report this evening talks about, the aspect of technology in the curriculum was exactly part of the plan. It talked about parallel processes from the very beginning, and that aspect was always a component. The only other comment I wanted to make was for Mr. Hill. My understanding was that last year is the first year of Link to Learn. They did accept our application without a plan, and that would never occur again. So a plan is absolutely required for us to repeat this year. That is my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weitz. Mr. Clemens.
Nothing. Let's
Okay,
have a
thank you.
meeting. Let's have a work session.
Okay, that's it. Everybody suit up. You're on the playing field November 11th. Okay, thank you. High school expansion, Mr. Mosey.
Thank you, Madam President. The intent to award construction contracts for the additions and renovations to the North Penn High School and the recommendation to submit Plan Con Part G will be acted upon under the bid awards section of the agenda tonight. The liaison committee, administrative staff, and the architect have reviewed in detail the various alternates and recommend those listed under the various prime contracts. End of report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mosey. Board questions to the right, Mr. Clemens?
Around.
Around? The left?
No.
When's it going to be done?
No.
Tonight, he said.
Yes,
No.
June of '99.
June of
June of
99.
99.
Start digging.
Yeah, be there. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mosey, and thank you, Art, again on that one. North Monco Technical Career Center, Mr. Allen.
The Technical Career Center did not have a meeting this month. However, I can report on the progress of the building. It's going along fine. They expect the builder's portion of the project to be done at the end of November. End of report.
Okay, it should be added for the record, Mrs. Hatfield, that all matters of business for the month of October will be ratified in November by the 3 JOC members of this board. That's Mosey, Allen, and Mengel. Merck Science Partnership, Mr. White.
I have a report tonight prepared by Donna Brown and David Decker, an update for the board. The beginning of the school year marks the time for teachers to begin building relationships with students. Our young scientists and mathematicians have started this year with classroom investigations prompted by the experience of our K-8 staff at the summer training as leader teachers or peer teachers. Many of our teachers recently attended the Montgomery County Science Teachers Mini-Conference at Souderton High School. We were well represented by both presenters and participants. Also contributing as presenters were some Merck West Point scientists and our science supervisor, Donna Brown. Our peer teachers, those 90-some teachers who attended a one-week summer session in math or science, were invited to a follow-up session held during the month of October to share experiences with students focusing on assessment in math and science. As reported last month, a group of leader teachers and other interested principals and teachers met during the summer to develop our K-12 science framework, a curriculum document which will guide our teachers to accomplish our science standards. More work on the science framework is scheduled, both with the original group and with our leader teachers. Work will begin on developing a comparable document for our mathematics program as we begin the mathematics curriculum review process. Schools continue to focus on science and mathematics by offering special events such as math nights, science weeks, etc. This month, math and science events were scheduled for Gwynfor, Bridle Path, and North Wales. And that is their report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Weitz? To left? Right? Thank you. Meet and discuss in municipal relations, Mr. Hill.
Yes, there has been no meetings of meet and discuss, but as the board is aware, we're having a meeting with the Administrator Association next week. Is that Monday, Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. And whatever comes out of that discussion will probably lead to another meet and discuss meeting. Municipal relations, as I mentioned last month, the primary thing that the other municipalities are interested in discussing is the reassessment. And in addition to that, I would surmise that they'll be interested to see how the election goes in November relative to the new taxing policy that could be instituted. So until we have the information from the reassessments finally all confirmed and that election, there'll be no municipal relation meeting schedule and the reports.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hill. You're talking about the homestead exemption?
Yes.
All right, any questions of Mr. Hill on either reports? Board members to the left?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Just a request, if the Homestead Exemption Act passes, could we make it a point that we work with the 7 municipalities about how we go about what we're going to have to do instead of working in a vacuum?
Yes, we would do that, but you got to remember this vote does not produce anything. This is just a referendum.
I know.
And then we got to wait for the legislature to do something, which may take another 10 years. But yes, when that time comes and it's beneficial to work with the municipality, we will do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Allen, we can try that, but it could also pan out to be like those discussions we had on the earned income tax with the other municipalities where they say, you do it and we'll take half, and we say, no, you do it, we'll take half. Yeah, that might go nowhere.
But the fact that everybody has to do something at one time may make it a little easier.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, jump?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
To the right? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. There's an additional report tonight. It should be marked as O. Mrs. Hackfield, Performance-Based Committee. That is a committee that was assigned in reflection to an agreed memorandum with the bargaining unit, with the Teachers Association, and that was to discuss merit-based pay, or performance-based pay. We met today at 4 o'clock for the district. There was myself, Bose, Hassler, and Miller. For the union, for the association, was President Jordan and faculty Piercy, Bancroft, and Craig. We plan to meet again prior to Thanksgiving, that 3rd week in November. At this time, we have finance. Let me begin by saying that I have struggled very hard with what to say this evening before we begin explanations of a report that many of you are waiting for. The report that you are waiting for has been copied. It's in Mr. Weir's office, and those copies will be made available at the end of the evening. I believe there are 150 copies made for purposes of tonight. What is so difficult is that it comes with a certain amount of emotion. It isn't just a matter of facts and figures. There's emotions attached to this report. Emotions by those members of the board, particularly myself and others, that have pushed for such a report for a long time and received much criticism for an effort or a movement of this sort. There are those that will be affected by the report. So there should be no joy, no real joy in what needs to be disclosed this evening. There can only be learning lessons for this board and for those that wish to be employed in this school district. There are some thank yous that are deserved around. From where I sit, I wish to thank the other 4 members of this board that ran with me in '95 and made it their 5th and completed promise to provide to the community, should we take control, a detailed system analysis of various activities and accounts and operations in the finance department. This report has done just that to the extent that it'll show you. I'd also like to thank the balance of the board, the other 4 members that did not run with us, for the courage to step out and do something that was never done before. 9 of us agreed that there are things here that are wrong. There are things here we did not like. There were numbers we did not understand. We learned that in many different ways. From administrators that were brave enough to step out and tell us our own speculations, and some of the accountability that each and every one of you in your own way have demanded. We have been called paranoid, heavy-handed, unfair, hard on administrators. I wish to call it a greater demand of accountability, because it's what we believed the community expected and made clear to us from '95 to this point in time, and probably for future boards yet to come. Finance is at the root of everything in this district, and we fight more about money than we do anything else. And third, I'd like to thank the administrators that have put in considerable time of their other work expectations and jobs to glean through past reports, past documents, and to actually search offices and closets and filing cabinets for information that was needed to provide the report this evening. That's you, Dr. Bose, Ken Weir, and Art Wood, for the extra time you spend here in the evenings and on weekends. At this time, I have asked Solicitor Bartle to provide to you the findings to date of a report prepared by Deloitte and Touche. They are not here this evening for purposes of, for reasons of scheduling. I could have said, okay, we'll wait till you're ready. And I know what you would have said. Foul, there's an election coming. So I had a choice to either provide this to you tonight without their being here, or to have this entire board, myself included, scrutinized because we're up against an election. I tell you that to say that tonight's report is not the end of the report. We will give you the findings. We have just gotten much of it ourselves. We are not done with the report. We have further discussions and deliberations that we need as a board in public and in private. In private, because there's reasons of personnel we must do that, and there's reasons of potential litigation we must do that. We are not done with the report tonight. At this time, Solicitor Bartle, if you'd be so kind to provide what you can of that report.
Certainly. And
that report will be ready. It is ready, and it will be given to you at the end of the evening.
Thank you, President Mengel. Can you hear me in the audience?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, President Mengel. It's my understanding that you wish that I read the report. There are approximately 5 pages or thereabouts to the report itself, and then some attachments. The attachments will be made available to the audience as well, but I'll just read the original 5+ pages of the report. This is a letter that is addressed to Dr. Bose. It apparently was received by the district on October 22nd, which would be yesterday. It's directed to Dr. Edward Bose, and it reads as follows. We have performed the procedures enumerated below in connection with the financial management activities of the North Penn School District, the district, which were agreed to by you and your representatives solely to assist the Board of School Directors, the board, and senior management of the district in obtaining information about cash flow management, investments, bank reconcilements, and accounting operations of the district, and to identify an interim and a replacement manager of financial affairs. This engagement to apply agreed-upon procedures was performed in accordance with the standards established by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. The sufficiency of the procedures is solely the responsibility of the board and the senior management of the district. Consequently, we make no representations regarding the sufficiency of the procedures described below, either for the purposes for which this report has been requested or for any other purpose. Our objectives, procedures, and findings are as follows. Number 1, project objectives. A, to assist the board and senior management of the North Penn School District in obtaining information about cash flow management, investments, bank reconcilements, and accounting operations of the district. B, to identify an interim and a replacement manager of financial affairs. 2, procedures performed. A, we interviewed all key personnel in the business office as identified by senior management. We specifically asked the personnel to describe their current job responsibilities and how they believe their jobs could be improved to be more efficient or effective. B, we received and read various internal accounting records of the district, including the current fiscal year general ledger, bank statements and reconciliations for February and March 1997, and various financial analyses performed by district personnel. C, we received data files containing expenditure transactions for the last 3 fiscal years and for the current year through April 10, 1997 from district business office and data processing personnel. We received data files containing payroll transactions for the last 2 fiscal years and for the current year through pay period 21 from district business office and data processing personnel. D, we electronically extracted the following information from the expenditure and payroll transaction files and provided this information to district senior management. 1, list of expenditures by vendor and amount, fiscal years ended 94, 95, 96, and 97. 2, list of expenditures for petty cash reimbursement, fiscal years ended 96 and 97. 3, list of expenditures to Xerox Corporation, fiscal years ended 96 and 97. 4, list of expenditures for employee reimbursements, D. Kelly, fiscal years ended 1996, none for 97. 5, list of total payroll paid to D. Kelly, fiscal years ended 96 and 97. 6, list of payroll by employee, fiscal years ended 96 and 97. E, we sent the following correspondence. Number 1, request for confirmation of open bank and investment accounts to Core States Bank, Union National Bank, Mellon Bank, PA School District Liquid Asset Fund, PSDLAF, Prudential Securities, and Public Financial Management, PFM. We received confirmation responses from all of the institutions listed above. 2, letter requesting permission to review information in Manley Falconero's audit working papers for the year ended June 30, 1996. We did not receive permission from Manley Falconero to review their working papers. F, we prepared an analysis of investment transactions in the Prudential investment accounts since the opening of the accounts in September 1995. We compared the descriptions of investments provided by the Prudential account statements to the list of allowable investments in the Pennsylvania Public School Code. We compared the purchase price of investments from Prudential account statements or purchase confirmations to the published daily closing price obtained from Deloitte & Touche National Securities Pricing Center, a database which uses several independent pricing sources, including the EJV Partners Pricing Service, Merrill Lynch Securities Pricing Service, and the Bear Stearns Street Pricing Service. We compared the balances reported on the monthly statements for the current fiscal year to the general ledger investment accounts. G, we interviewed a candidate identified by senior management for the position of interim manager of financial affairs and recommended that the district hire him for that position. H, we were informed by senior management of certain issues and concerns. Several are listed below. We discussed these items with senior management and were informed that they would take and/or had taken further action to investigate and attempt resolution of these issues. Accordingly, we performed no additional procedures relating to these issues. Number 1, sales taxes collected by the district have apparently not been remitted to the Commonwealth Department of Revenue for several years, despite the receipt of several delinquency notices from the Commonwealth. We were informed by district senior management that a check was sent to the Department of Revenue on March 27, 1997. This check replaces 2 checks that were originally drafted on June 30, 1993, voided and redrafted as a single check on June 30, 1995, and never remitted to the Department of Revenue. 2. Purchases and lease agreements for photocopying equipment have not been procured through a competitive bidding process for several years. One vendor has been utilized for all such equipment. Copies of the contracts and lease agreements with the vendor could not be located internally, but were provided by the vendor at a later date. Note, we did perform a data extraction related to this vendor. See Roman numeral 2, D5. 3. There had been an informal arrangement in place for several years with an outside organization headed by a former district employee to include that organization's employees in the district health benefit plan. Apparently, the arrangement set up was to charge the organization a flat premium per employee. Since that time, the district had not adjusted the premiums collected for actual experience, which had been worse than expected. Senior management of the district has further informed us that upon discovery of this issue, the organization has been notified of such deficiencies and has paid all sums due and owing with appropriate interest. The relationship has been appropriately terminated. 4. There had been reported instances of former employees of the district who were still covered by the district's health benefit plan for a period of time following their employment. Senior management of the district has further informed us that such cases have been identified as of this date and have been remedied by removal of those former employees from the health plan. 5. There had been certain instances where necessary application forms for state reimbursement for district building projects now several years old had not been completed and submitted to the Commonwealth. Since identification of such deficiencies, district personnel have received necessary extensions of time for submission of reimbursement applications. We are advised by district personnel that completion of the necessary applications is currently in progress. 6. There have been for several years instances where reports for federally funded programs have not been completed in an accurate manner. Discrepancies in such reports exist with respect to federal reimbursements received. Personnel charges to such programs have been inappropriately listed as well. Further, allowable program options were not fully utilized to the benefit of the district. Senior management of the district has further informed us that the interim manager of financial affairs for the district is currently attempting to remedy this situation. Three, project findings. A, cash flow management. No significant cash flow deficiencies were noted for the period from April through June 1997. Maturities of investments were planned around key disbursement dates, e.g. summer payroll. B, investments. Analysis of investment transactions with Prudential results as follows. Number 1, U.S. Treasury principal and interest strips purchased by the district do not appear to be allowable under the Pennsylvania Public School Code. The district may desire to obtain a legal opinion from the solicitor about the allowability of these investments. All such investments matured on May 15, 1997 and are therefore no longer an investment vehicle for the district. 2, there was an instance of an investment purchase of certificates of deposit over $100,000 in a non-Pennsylvania bank during October 1996. The Pennsylvania Public School Code allows investments in certificates of deposit in a non-Pennsylvania bank as long as the deposit is insured or fully collateralized. Deposits in excess of $100,000 are not covered by federal depository insurance. We inquired of the Director of Financial Affairs about this transaction, and he informed us that when he became aware of the transaction, he instructed the broker to sell the related certificate. We noted the cancellation of the purchase in the next month's statement from the broker. 3, the general ledger investment account did not reconcile to investment statement detailed during the current year, with the largest difference being in excess of $800,000. details higher than the general ledger. Reconciliation should have been performed, and all investment activity, including investment earnings, should have been recorded in the general ledger on a monthly basis. While reconciliation was ultimately accomplished, the fact that it was not timely done made it difficult for the district to accurately determine its financial position during the year. 4. All investments in U.S. Treasury strips and other government-backed strips that were purchased in the two accounts that were active from September 1995 through May 1997 were purchased at a price in excess of the published daily closing bid for that investment. The excesses of the purchase price over the closing price range from $0.046, I guess that would be 4.6 cents, to $0.3741, that would be 37.41 cents per 100. This consistent pattern appears to be unusual since the daily movement of the closing bid prices for these types of securities rarely exceeded 5 cents, that would be $0.05 per 100 during the same period. Additionally, given the low risk and short term, less than 1 year, maturity of these types of investments, the market for these types of securities is relatively stable and not subject to large swings on a daily basis. Also, it is not standard industry practice for brokers to charge commissions for these types of transactions. See attachments A and B for a detailed listing of investment transactions. 5. The dollar volume and nature of certain investment transactions, sales and purchases, for certain months, November 1996 and October and December 1995, is inconsistent with activity of other months and with the apparent cash needs for those months. Certain investments in U.S. Treasury strips were sold, and the proceeds were used shortly thereafter to purchase similar investments, some with a shorter maturity date. See attachments A and B for a detailed listing of investment transactions. 6. While the board approved Prudential as a district depository in July 1995, the investment agreements with Prudential, dated September 28, 1995, were signed only by the Director of Financial Affairs. The investment agreements allowed for a Visa account feature and a margin account. District officials took steps to cancel these features in May 1997. C. Bank account reconcilements. All known major bank accounts have been reconciled on a monthly basis. Certain memorial accounts and a tax collection account have not been reconciled on a regular basis. Cash activity in memorial accounts is not extensive. 2 open accounts related to old bond issues were discovered. D. Accounting operations. Interviews were conducted with all key accounting personnel. These individuals stated that they believed there was a lack of supervisory review and direction, a lack of trained backup personnel to perform job procedures in case of absence, an extensive volume of paperwork processed, an inflexibility to the current software, and an express lack of willingness by the current software vendor to provide continuing support. E. Internal controls. We developed recommendations for improvement of policies, procedures, and internal controls in the following areas: cash management, investment management, cash forecasting, computer-based accounting systems, procurement/purchasing, accounts payable/invoice processing, cash disbursements, and payroll. These recommendations were developed based solely on the procedures performed above and are not based on a study and evaluation of the district's internal control structure. See attachment C for detailed recommendations. F. Data extraction review. Senior management was provided with expenditure and payroll data extractions. See Roman numeral 2D above. We have not been informed of any unusual or unexpected transactions. We were not engaged to and did not perform an audit or an examination, the objective of which would B, the expression of an opinion on the above specified elements, accounts, or items, and on the effectiveness of the district's internal control over financial reporting respectively. Accordingly, we do not express such an opinion. Had we performed additional procedures, other matters might have come to our attention that would have been reported to you. This report is intended solely for the use of the board and senior management of the North Penn District and should not be used by those who have not agreed to the procedures and taken responsibility for the sufficiency of the procedures for their purposes. And it's Deloitte & Touche. It is dated October 15, 1997, and contains the attachments.
Okay, thank you, Solicitor Bortle. Ladies and gentlemen, this board has been together for 22 months. During that time, as you can see, there's been many things done by this board in 22 months, and all along the way, this has been at the bottom of that work. At that time, and for the past 2 years, Mrs. Vicki Scher has been our finance liaison, and I'd like to thank her for keeping us on task with getting to a detailed systems analysis that was approved by this board on April 9th, 1997. I'd also like to specifically thank Tom Clemens and his leadership in his first year of presidency with our first 12 months as a board together. And I know, as being vice president to Mr. Clemens, that he has spent much time with various details that are here, various concerns and issues that had to be investigated, and spent considerable time with Dr. Bose and other key staff members about matters that have come to light. So I thank both of you, Mrs. Scher and Mr. Clemens. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that concludes our committee reports, and I thank all those students that stayed almost through the whole thing. Cameraman, how much time do we have on before we do a switch? How much? 45 minutes. Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's your turn. It's audience of citizens. If you'd come forward, state your name and address. We'll take questions, comments, and all matters district business.
Good evening. I'm H. Bruce Gordon, Montgomery Township. After the recent technology forum held at Montgomery Township, a student from another district came up to me to comment on some remarks I had made. This student wanted to tell me of the apathy of some of his fellow classmates had toward technology in the classroom. He told me some of the students couldn't care less about learning to use computers, and that their parents don't push the issue either. I told the student that this attitude would not help these kids once they are out in the real world. The need for computer skills would be and are all around them, especially if they want to get into higher paying jobs. The attitude this student expressed was one of lost hope, of giving up on his fellow students, and that is sad. In our district, I am sure we have parents and students who feel the same about technology in the schools. It is up to you, our school board of directors, to show all of our citizens, through our curriculum directors, school administrators, and teachers, how learning the technology basics, such as word processing, spreadsheets, and graphic design, can be used to prepare them for life beyond high school, be that college or the working world. Acceptance of a strategic plan for technology implementation in our school district is a first step towards this level of education. A plan of this type is not meant to provide you with all the answers and the detailed shopping list of what is needed. It is a roadmap to provide you with the guidance in attaining the goal of full technology integration. Back in late 1995, when I joined a large group of volunteering citizens, school administrators, teachers, and school board directors to staff a strategic technology plan, to draft a strategic technology plan, we were directed to think out of the box. What would we, as a group, think was needed for our administrators to run the district and our schools? What would our teachers need to bring technology into the classroom? And what would our students need to further their education? The technology group was not told at that time to get into the details of financing and curriculum planning. That was to be worked out in conjunction with the other strategic planning groups, but rather to think at the 30,000-foot level and provide a broad plan which could be the springboard for further discussions and detailed planning. We did that. Our report was presented to this board in early '96. with the initial intention that it would be our district's submission to the state. When this state-level requirement was deemed unnecessary, the report was put in a drawer somewhere, never to see the light of day. In March of this year, Mr. Weitz presented the board with a report derived from the original strategic technology plan. In the ensuing months, this board has only completed one item relating to technology in general, that of awarding the Pentimation bid to upgrade the ESC computer. Tonight, you're going to have the chance to begin catching this district up with the technology that is around us by voting to put up for bid computers for the high school library. Do it tonight. Move ahead. Don't wait on hiring a technology manager, no matter that some of you want to be sure that you have a scapegoat in place should plans go awry. Our district's kids are falling behind more every day. Don't wait either to accept Mr. Weitz's plan, which I believe will be brought before this board for the second time, before this night is over, or maybe from a week from now. I don't care that I may be asking you to commit political suicide by supporting technology that will cost the taxpayers money. I am asking you to commit to the students of this district, whose educational achievements you so often hold up for our approval. Politics has no place in the running of this district, nor should its tentacles be felt within our classrooms via partisan economic policy. I love living in this area, but I don't want to see our district divided into the haves and have-nots. Those that have access to technology in their homes and those that depend on being able to access it in our schools, despite the fact that it's far outdated in the majority of the equipment available to them. This is promoting a multi-tiered class system, and I believe our schools should be a leveling ground where every child has the equal chance to succeed and learn as much as he or she is capable of. This board should act as the guardians of our children's education and put the expansion of the students' minds ahead of the next worry about re-election. I'm sorry I can't spend hours here tonight to see these agenda items through, but my two kids have school in the morning and they need their sleep. Please get moving on technology plans for this district before the sun rises on another day. Thank you for your time.
Mrs. Maniscalco.
Good evening. My name's Jeannie Maniscalco. I'm from Montgomery Township, and I would like to talk to the board tonight about the decision not to broadcast the Monday night North Penn Candidates Forum that was hosted by the League of Women Voters because of a legal opinion written to Mr. Bartle from Jeffrey Tucker of Sweet Stevens, Tucker, and Katz. These forums should be seen as an educational service provided by the district to the citizens so that they can use them to hear the candidates express their opinions on the topics relating to the school board position. These candidates, in seeking to throw their hat into the ring, should come to that decision knowing that they will have to participate in expressing their views on issues in the public eye. It must be a very scary thing to get up in front of people with the tape rolling and try to get your point across, all while maintaining your poise and concentration and answering important questions in under 1 minute. But if you are a serious candidate, you should know your stand on these issues and be ready to let the public hear them. I think that there are many people out there, especially parents, that just cannot find the time and the opportunity to get to these forums. And you might be surprised at the number who rely on the district to inform and educate them with the taping of these meetings. I am a school board liaison for my elementary school, but I am also a mother of young children. If I cannot attend a meeting here, I have the option to tape it and watch it when time permits. Please do not take away this most important opportunity for people to make up their minds with information seen on tape forums, together with information read in newspapers and on the radio. Please work together to change this decision and allow the citizens of the North Penn School District to make up their minds based on conclusions gathered from all different media. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Altamare. I'm located at 1905 Nashmont Court, Towamencin Township. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters. The school district decided not to videotape the school board candidates forum held on Monday, October 20th, as previously agreed. As the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization committed to an informed electorate, we used the services of a professional videographer to videotape the forum. This is a copy of that videotape. We hope that you will agree to air this video on the North Penn Educational Channel 16. This is a valuable service to the community. The video will also be shown on Adelphia Cable. Everyone, please check the reporter for air dates and times. Suburban Cable Channel will also air the video on Thursday, October 30th, at 3 p.m. Please set your VCR. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, please? Ladies and gentlemen.
Jerry Vigiletti, Hatfield Township. Under resignations this evening, I note that Mary Kay Feely at Gwinnett Square is effective October 31st. Do we have a replacement? Are we getting close?
I can't tell you that we're getting close until we see the people we invited to discuss the position, but you should know that that's occurring next week.
Okay. Mr. White, can you tell me, a couple of weeks ago when you talked about the Merck Science Partnership, you had said this summer there was an additional 90 teachers, and tonight you said there was 90 teachers?
In all cases, I'm reading reports that come from our science supervisors. Tonight, the report said 90-some teachers. I will admit I don't know the exact number.
Okay. And one other thing, also on this agenda tonight is recommend approval of acceptance of a grant for Mrs. Caroline Crew, kindergarten teacher at Gwinnett Square. I would certainly like to see you approve that, and I don't see any reason why you would not. However, anything's possible. This is just one fine example of some of the teachers we have in this district, and I would hate to see them be taken away by surrounding districts like our supervisors have been, because we don't give them the tools necessary to do what they would like to do and what they need to do. So I would just like to say that please vote to approve this for Mrs. Crew. Thank you.
Mrs. Abrams.
Linda Abram, Upper Gwinnett. Dr. Hassler, earlier this evening you spoke of volunteer aid coordinators being requested from the buildings to meet together to discuss issues related to computer curriculum integration. Has that meeting been established, the date has been established, or is that something that's coming down the road?
It's being sent out to all coordinators over the next couple of days.
Okay. And the purpose of their role in that meeting is to discuss what each individual building has with regards to technology?
We've asked them to collect a number of pieces of information, the things that they think are most effective in the building that they're currently working in, the types of things they may change, if they could change them, and basically what it is to try to pull together the different things that are happening throughout the district so that we can start to take a look at consistently implementing across the district.
Is it possible that in that meeting or maybe in subsequent meetings, those folks in some of our buildings who have been extremely instrumental in establishing technology avenues be also included? In other words, what I'm saying is the volunteer aid coordinator is not always, and usually is not, the person who is the driving force behind these items in a building, and rather there is another individual person or a complement of people who may be able to shed even greater light on this situation, building to building.
Yes, basically what we were trying to do is just start start somewhere, and that was a beginning to bring those people in, and they will be asked the same types of things we're asking our staff. Who else would be good resources to assist us?
Okay.
Dr. Hausler, I think Mrs. Abrams might be confusing the volunteer coordinator positions with the computer volunteer coordinators.
From my understanding, yes, there is a computer volunteer coordinator in
Right.
addition to the coordinator for all volunteers.
Right.
And the person being invited to this meeting is?
Computer.
I'm sorry, I was
Yes.
confused.
Coordinator.
I was confused. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Okay. Okay. Ms. Mengel, when we spoke earlier of technology, and you mentioned the November 11th meeting, did you say that technology would be first on the docket that night?
Yes, I've asked that it would be.
Okay.
The only thing that could come before that could be hiring, special actions, accommodations to students,
Right.
those items that are pretty important.
I would assume, as are all our committee meetings, rather packed agenda-wise, but I would hope that the board would give ample time for discussion and dialogue about this. When I hear tonight of deadlines that could be looming, we have to, I guess, clarify those, certainly. It is sort of sad to think that they become the driving force behind our mission to establish a plan in this district. Again, a concern mentioned earlier, it seems to me that we need to clarify the role that the district's lack of action in a technology plan has upon those other schools that may be private or parochial, but that are under the North Penn School District's geographical boundaries. And I hope that by the 11th, we would have that information to the public. I'm looking at Mr. Weir just because I think you said you would do that.
That information is readily available.
Okay. The audit that was read, or the letter regarding the audit that was read tonight, you mentioned that will be released at the end of the meeting. Correct. Copies will be available. I assume, as in any other situation, since we are not really capable of, we heard a lot, it's a lot to digest, that we'll be able to come back at another time and discuss this in public further?
I think it'll have to be, because board members are going to have to do some of the items publicly, and some of the items would be done in executive session. But I know myself, I have at least 50 questions, more than I've had before. I know Mrs. Scher has probably 1 million. I know every board member, oh, I'm sorry. And she should, this is what she's supposed to do. But anyway, there are so many questions here by every member of the board. So yes, we will.
Okay. The letter was dated October the 15th and was received by the district on the 22nd. I assume that the board has received ample explanation for the time frame that occurred in this process. My understanding was that we had hoped that this would be released many months sooner than this. I assume that you've discussed this with these folks and that there's an understanding.
I am the one that was saying meeting after meeting, it's coming, because that's exactly what I've been told.
Okay.
But every time it was coming, it came back as a draft. And the most important aspect of the report this evening, and what will be placed in your hands, is that every single detail can be backed with hard paper. And drafts would come back, and if something, the littlest thing, couldn't be specifically spoken to in accuracy, it had to go back. So no sooner we would think it's close, it wasn't done yet.
If there are areas in this report, or there seem to be areas in this report that possibly the district wasn't in compliance, and I'm recalling all that he said, I assume that an attempt was made. I believe Solicitor Bartle mentioned that attempts were made to act in compliance or to receive extensions and this kind of thing. Do I understand that as a result of that lack of compliance, there could be penalties down the road to us, financially and otherwise?
Yes. Yes, sir.
I'll answer those questions.
That'd be fine. I would appreciate the help.
Yeah. We have not yet received complete information with respect to any of the portions of the report that I read that bear on those particular issues. I would hesitate to comment on what may happen to us in the future as a result. The only thing that I can say with respect to the report is that what has been said in the report is accurate. And of course, my advice to the district has been immediately upon finding that, and those type of things came up in initial drafts, that we take immediate steps to remedy whatever situations existed, and that we attempt to get extensions, and that we attempt to submit appropriate forms for reimbursement immediately upon knowing of the deficiencies. So that's really all that I can say. I'm not sure that we are in a position today to tell you whether there will be any penalties or whether we will lose any money as a result of that. To the extent that we will be able to report that information in the future, it may be made public. However, they may deal with matters of personnel or litigation, depending on what the board does in the future with respect to this report.
Okay, so then obviously there will be further reports submitted by this board to the public so that we can understand more completely the ramifications of this.
Yeah, I think you should know that it's the board's intention to get the information to the public as soon as possible. The problem that we have is, in light of the fact that some of these issues bear upon personnel matters and may bear upon matters of litigation, that we want to be 100% accurate with the information that we give you tonight or in any future meeting, rather than be inaccurate and have it bear upon the reputations of people or affect litigation adversely for the district.
I can understand that. Okay, thank you. And finally, with regards to the addition at Knapp, when will we be discussing this issue? Okay, so that'll also be on. Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. O'Donnell.
My name is Frank O'Donnell, Hatfield Township. First of all, I'm glad to see that you're going to get the night you deserve. I think that should be discussed, beaten to death, and move forward with it. I really think we need a plan in place so it can be filed for the state money. Hopefully you vote for it, do something with it, so we can get that money so we don't lose out. Art, talk to you about that Hatfield Elementary School, the curtain that's falling down, falling apart, it's going to hit somebody one of these days. That was cut from the budget that I asked you about earlier. I know we talked about it on the phone. I hope it can be discussed with the board and you can do something about it before it falls down on some of the kids.
As I promised, we are talking internally, and there will be a recommendation to the board.
Okay, that's great. Going through your handout tonight, and I see this North Penn High School IMC computer upgrade. I don't know a whole lot about computers, but I do know this, that if I were a student at Temple University, I could go over and get Windows 95, not for $192, but for $80. Office Pro, instead of $175, I can probably get it for about, I think it's $80 or $90 also. That's student price. 60 personal computers, and when I turn the Best Buys in the newspaper, with some decent computers, it's for 60 of them. I'd like to think I can get them for half price. I mean, I'm all for the computers, but I just wonder where these prices came from. Does anybody know?
These prices are constantly being challenged and being revised.
I pick up Best Buy.
We have not gone to bid. We have not finalized the specifications. Your comments regarding the cost of some software, I've heard from other members of the audience, and those challenges are welcomed and appropriate. When we talk about this later tonight, I'll talk about further revisions to the estimates as we continue to work toward this. If the board votes tonight to permit us to go forward for bids, we will then write specifications and seek the real prices. These have been estimates which have been on the high side in some cases.
Yes.
And we appreciate that comment.
I recommend to the board that you go for that, and instead of 60, get 120 of them. I mean, it's these. Dave, you know a lot about PCs. I mean, if you look at these prices, they're outrageous. If anybody has a PC at home, if you do any work on them, and also, Mr. Barta, I believe you answered the question a second ago as to. I'm concerned about the internal controls that took place for some of the things that went wrong a while ago. One of my questions to you would be, or the board would be, are there any employees still here? I know some are gone, and I know you really can't discuss it, but I would just hope that the people in charge would see that, in my opinion, that you're no longer working here, because who knows what's going to happen in the future, because apparently their integrity has been compromised. And I'm sure that just more than one person or two people have been aware of this. I've been doing accounting for 30 years, and normally there's several people involved in these things, not just one person. Person signing the check, person approving a voucher, person filing them. Obviously you read the information in front of you. I know you can't comment on it, but I just hope the board does something. Thank you.
Mr. Taylor?
I'm Bill Taylor from Lansdale, and I carefully wrote something this week which is bright and clever and all that and entirely out of place, so I won't use it. For the sake of balancing the skepticism that the community has with the board, having said over and over again that the audit is coming, we don't know where it is, and so on, would you please tell me, first time the author of the audit sent it to anybody related to North Penn, when they got any portion of it, what they did with it, and how that went back and forth? And I realize this could be like narrating a tennis match, but would you please do that?
At the end?
Yeah, I'll try. Do you want me to do it now, or do you want me to do it at the conclusion of the, it's up to you.
Mr. Taylor, at the conclusion of the audience of citizens will explain that. The conclusion of audience of citizens will explain the motion of the audit since April 9th.
Put it in paper, so I can copy it.
Okay.
I could not give a fair rendition of that to somebody else. So, yeah, say it here, please, in some way, we're going to have to double take.
Okay. Mrs. Penniman.
Bobby Penniman, Lansdale Borough. I'd like to make a suggestion that you make the audit available to the audience at the break. We're going to have a break pretty soon, and I think there are quite a few people who will be leaving, and I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to stay until the very bitter end tonight. It looks like it's going to be a pretty long agenda. So I respectfully request that that be made available when we break. I really wanted to talk about Channel 16 and the decision to not tape candidate forums. What an incredible demonstration of democracy in action. What example are we setting to young people and to members of the community who have not participated in the democratic process in the past? For some people, reading the newspaper is incredibly difficult. Attending meetings is very difficult. And watching television is their only opportunity to see what's occurring at the helm of their school district. And what's more pertinent to that than identifying the characteristics of the candidates who would like to lead the district? We all know character counts. Videotape doesn't lie. That's another truism that we know so well in this district. I implore you to change that decision and begin to show the tapes again of the candidates forum that was held this week, and the one that's coming up next week. The third thing I wanted to ask about is, could we please have an update on our hiring a technology director?
I'll speak to that. We have conducted interviews, and we have more interviews scheduled. The first interviews we conducted did not result in a candidate who would join us, and we have interviews scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday of this next week, and we are optimistic that we will find candidates that can be recommended for hiring. We will be interviewing on Tuesday and Wednesday, and perhaps additional days during the week.
one only needs to look at the employment section of the Philadelphia Inquirer on a Sunday to see the number of positions that are going unfilled in the technology area. It seems there must be a tremendous amount of competition for candidates possessing the qualities and skills that we're looking for. And at the same time, I'm wondering if, I have not seen the job specs, but I'm wondering if we're raising the bar at all in terms of our own needs, vis-a-vis the ability to handle the nuts and bolts aspect of the job, as well as someone with a vision to handle the curriculum and the planning activities that are we've been talking about tonight are so critical.
We have advertised for 3 levels of staff. And we have a sufficient number of applicants for each of those 3 levels.
We are seeing candidates who have the skills that we need.
We have, and we expect to.
I'm glad to hear that. And within our budget,
some would like us to stretch a bit.
That's understandable, but as long as we're in the neighborhood, we can be talking, and that's the important thing, and that our salary range is not so low that we're not even able to attract any candidates. And I look forward to Mr. Bartle clearing the air on the ping-ponging of this report, because if the reports that we've all read are true, the report has been in the district for quite some time, and I'm wondering if Mr. Bartle was the only person who had access to the report during that time period, and if that is the case, how it happened to go back and forth with the accountants because it needed additional documentation.
Solicitor Bartle, I would rather not wait till the end of the audience of citizens. I'd rather you give that now.
Okay, well, I'll be happy to do it as you wish. First of all, I think the district initially employed Deloitte & Touche in sometime in April, and I don't have that exact date, but that certainly is available. There was a considerable amount of work that was done by Deloitte & Touche in the first couple of months. Part of the original charge to Deloitte & Touche was not to complete a report and submit it to the district. As I understand the work that was to be done, it was placed in, Deloitte & Touche submitted a proposal to the school district, and that proposal was acted upon by the board initially. Apparently, there was a misunderstanding with respect to what was initially purchased from Deloitte & Touche by way of services. There was not supposed to be a report, and there was not supposed to be a public report. They were merely coming in for the purpose of going through the financial office, rendering recommendations, seeing where we were. There were some other issues that existed, and they're all detailed in the April 9, I think it's April 9 or April 19th, whatever that date is. That comes into my mind as far as when the board meeting took place that this was discussed. But in any event, it was sometime in April. You would have to look at that particular document to see what was agreed to by the district and Deloitte & Touche at that time. It's my understanding that services were provided to the board through June, and that sometime in mid-June, there was a bill presented from Deloitte & Touche with respect to the various services that had been incurred to that point in time. Subsequent to that, there was an agreement with the administration of the district as to various other services that were to be provided. Part of that included a report to the district. Some of that had to do with the identification of the financial manager that's currently on staff here and the process for doing that. It's my understanding that sometime in August, of this year that various drafts began coming to the district, and certainly I recall them coming to my office with respect to the report of Deloitte & Touche. There were also additional services that were requested of them that were to be included within the report. Now, there is some different account in the newspaper with respect to Mr. Weir's comment, or Mr. Weir's comments as to the report and where the report was. And I know Ken at no time said that I had a copy of the report, but apparently that was inferred by someone, and I don't know whom, with respect to the Deloitte & Touche report. I at no time had a final copy of the report until this evening. I did have draft copies of the report from one time to another. I at no time had a draft copy of the report that the district did not have as well. As a matter of fact, there were times in August, in the latter part of August, when I think Ken and Bud and I, and perhaps Art was there as well, went over where the draft was to that point in time from Deloitte & Touche that had been sent to us. From sometime at the end of August through September, and I believe into October, there were issues as to what additional services were going to be provided by Deloitte & Touche with respect to the report, and they were essentially as follows, and I'll give them to the best of my recollection. First of all, there were additional responsibilities with respect to the prudential accounts that were being explored by Deloitte & Touche. Preliminarily, they were to go back to sometime in 1996, and they were then subsequently told, apparently by the administration, not by me, to go back to sometime in 1995 when the relationship between the district and Prudential Securities began. That's part of the information that they were collecting through August and September. There was also additional information that apparently was being collected. There was initially language in the report that was not appropriate language that was used in there, and it was also noted in one of the drafts that it would have to be updated, revised, etc., but it was provided to us merely for purposes of showing where they were at a given point in time, that indicated that certain numbers were the daily high with respect to security transactions. There was one of the attachments to the report, as you will see, contained some information concerning what those numbers were and what they represented. As I understand it from speaking to Mr. Veman, who is the partner in charge of the report, the information with respect to some of those purchased securities was not readily available to them in their Philadelphia office. As a result, and the reason for this, as I understand it, is when the securities expire, they stop publishing information as to the daily high prices, the close prices, etc. And so it had to be researched as to what those prices were throughout a specific term, and whether those prices were in fact a daily high or a daily close. We obviously were very particular that the information that was contained in the report be correct in all respects, because it would carry a different implication if something were purchased during the day at a price which ended up being higher than the close, than the implication that if it were purchased at a given point during the day and it was purchased at a price higher than the daily high. Those carry two entirely different implications. And so that had to be looked at with a great deal of scrutiny, and apparently that is what Deloitte & Touche had done. They then compiled the chart, I believe, which is the Exhibit C to the letter that was read this evening. There were also other issues that had to be resolved in September and also in October. One of the things that had to be resolved is exactly what representations were going to be made by the district to Deloitte & Touche. Remember, this was not a complete audit, nor were they asked to bring their entire staff here and go through all the books of record of the North Penn School District over a period of time. The board was cost conscious with respect to what we were trying to explore. And although these things cost a lot of money, I can assure you it would have cost a lot more money had the board not been cost conscious with respect to these matters. As a result, there were representations that were made by the district to Deloitte & Touche with respect to several of the items that I read to you earlier this evening in the report. There was a letter that was drafted from Deloitte & Touche to be placed on North Penn School District stationery or letterhead that was to carry those representations, and it was asked to be signed by Mr. Weir, by Mr. Wood, and also by Dr. Bose. We went through that letter both in, I believe, the beginning part of September, and also most recently with a new draft of the letter. And Dr. Bose then, upon receiving the finished copy of the report, which I believe, Dr. Bose, you received sometime the beginning of last week, about the 14th on the 14th of October. Dr. Bose then agreed to sign the letter of representation that contained in that letter of representations contained in it the specific paragraphs and referrals to the final report as to precisely what representations were being made by the district to the accounting firm, so that when they compiled their letter to give it back to us, that they were assured that the information that they based their conclusions on was factually accurate. And I believe Dr. Bose, having received that draft on the 14th of October, returned it to them on the 15th of October and notified my office by fax on the 15th of October that that had been accomplished. It was at that point that his office then received a final copy that was not marked draft. That was the first time that he or anyone else had that. And of course, I received my copy this evening in the executive session. Let me say that Mr. Weir's comments are somewhat different than mine. I think that's easily explainable. I explained it to the board earlier this evening. When asked as to where the report was, when Mr. Weir indicated that he did not have the report, he was responding to the question on the basis that to that point he had only ever received something that was marked draft and did not have a final copy of the report. When I was asked by an individual as to whether I had the report, I indicated that I had a draft of the report. And so I think what we were essentially saying was the same thing, but Ken, and I think appropriately, indicated that he did not have the final copy. I, at no time until this evening at about 7 o'clock, had the final copy of this particular report. As I said earlier, at all times when I had a copy of the draft, the district also had a copy of the draft. The way that I got the copies initially was that we had an executive session sometime back, I believe it was in June, when a document had been put together that I don't believe at all resembles the document that is the report this evening. And there was a certain list in the beginning of it of representations that had been made by the district. One of those representations I looked at and thought was inaccurate, and I asked the district for additional information with respect to that. When those documents were then in front of the board members, pursuant to the direction of Dr. Bose, they were all given to me until that representation could be verified. Subsequently, it was not verified. It was determined that the phraseology in that report or the representation in that paperwork, which is of course significantly different than what we're talking about here this evening, and I use the term report. It was actually just a listing, to my recollection, of the individual representations that were made by the district, which I thought was inaccurate, was subsequently confirmed to be inaccurate. So it was in an executive session with all board members present that I initially received the copy of the document, which essentially had been transcribed from representations that were made from the district. That's how I became involved in the matter in the first place, and at all times the district had all of the documents that I had.
Okay, Solicitor Barr, thank you. Before we get accused of splicing tape, we're going to have to take a recess, and we will be back.
That's all right. Two questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we reconvene?
I'll see him in the morning, so if you want to call for after or early next week, that's fine. 223.
I'll give it to you. Frank, I'm coming back to you if you have anything else.
I'm getting weighted on.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Welcome back. Prior to the break, Solicitor Bartle was giving us a rendition of where the report has been since it was approved April 9th, 1997. That was a request made by Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Penniman in response to both of your requests. Solicitor Bartle, do you have any last-minute wrap-up before we go to the next audience member?
I'm finished. I'm sorry about the length of that. In closing, I would only ask Bud and Ken and Art, to the extent that he was there, whether they agree with my rendition, because they were all there at the time that these things happened.
I certainly agree that all the documents that any of us had access to were always marked draft. Were always incomplete and always poised for final completion and end of drafting time and exercises. So when Mr. Bartle provided me on the 14th the draft, which I expected was the final draft, I was asked to review it for accuracy as far as the role that the school district played. I did review it, and I did then confirm for him on the 15th that as far as I was concerned, it was a complete document, and that it was ready for whatever fate it would have as far as public disclosure was concerned.
My turn?
Yes.
I learned a long time ago that a work copy or a draft copy is not a final copy. That every work copy and every draft copy that results in changed language before there's another draft copy and another version or another edition, you don't have a final copy until you have a final copy. That final copy came by overnight mail, special delivery, and arrived here in this office on the 22nd, yesterday, mid-morning.
I would just like to say that from the very beginning, when we began to receive draft copies, it was, I think, Mr. Bartle was very clear in his intent that it is a confidential document and that it should remain confidential. And I certainly contained the document and kept it confidential. And I can honestly say that my first exposure to a copy that was not marked draft was yesterday afternoon.
Thank you.
As board president, I had given instructions to Mr. Weir, as board secretary, that the minute hard and final copy was in the district, that he was to make it available to all 9 board members. I never had a copy of any report. I got my report the same time everybody else did, in the same courier mailing.
Yesterday afternoon.
Correct. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Myra Kurkowski, Upper Gwinnett Township, 476 West Prospect Avenue, North Wales. From your earlier comments, Mrs. Mengel, I was led to believe that this is not a complete copy of the report. Is it a complete copy or not a complete copy?
What comments are you talking about?
Your initial comments when you introduced it to the audience. I thought you said that we would be getting more documents in the future. Is that not my understanding?
No, that we are not through with this report. The board has what you will have this evening. We will be meeting in public on items that are to be heard and discussed in public, and we will also be meeting in private on those matters that are either personnel or litigation related, potential litigation related.
Let me answer this at this point. The report that you have, or that you will get a copy of tonight, is the complete report that the board has at this time. If there is to be any further exploration into any particular issue, then we would assume that there would be a further report from Deloitte & Touche after they had completed whatever work, if the board was to even entertain that, which they may or may not do. And I haven't had any discussion with them with respect to that. But everything that we have, you will have this evening.
Okay. My second question is, when can we expect the auditors to be present in a school board meeting to answer questions? Is this going to be created like a work session like you did technology for November 11th? When are you planning public work sessions on the audit? Have you spoken to them yet about a date?
No, there is no date set up this time, and I need to get direction from board members as to how they wish to proceed.
Well, I would say that we should move forward rather quickly on it and have this document explored. Furthermore, given the nature of the report, it might be good for the board to consider a full audit of our financial system at this point by these auditors, and I would recommend that. Another question I have tonight is, why was not this report made available to the public at the beginning of the meeting? It annoys me that I had to be read to with no document in front of me. I think that's very unfair, and I'd like to know the rationale for it.
Well, I don't find it unfair at all, because there's probably thousands and thousands of people that will view this tomorrow night and don't have the report either. Also, when the report was read so that it could be properly heard by people that aren't here tonight, through the benefit of cable channel that we provide as a board.
Well, I don't mind it being read, but why was no document?
Mrs. Kurkowski, let me finish your question.
Okay.
Okay, I waited for you. With all the people here, with reports, students on assignments, papers turning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We wanted a pure, easily heard, understood reading of that report for the listening audience that will pick this up tomorrow night.
And that's your rationale for not providing it at the beginning of the meeting?
That is my rationale, and that's why I did what I did.
Okay. My last question is, the solicitor mentioned that the initial directive to the auditors did not state that they would provide a report. I would like the minutes looked at, Mr. Weir, at some point, if not now, and verify that that was the case, that we weren't supposed to get a full report, because when I addressed the board in June, a full report was promised in June. And so I wonder where that discrepancy comes in.
I can answer that. First of all, I believe what I said was that the initial correspondence that was provided to the board in April from Deloitte & Touche, they're the ones that gave the proposal and was accepted by the board, did not include an issue with respect to a report, and it did not. It was subsequently directed by the administration to Deloitte & Touche that they provide a report. That direction may very well have come in June and at the time that you're to which you're referring. But the initial directive from the board, the acceptance of the proposal from Deloitte & Touche, was in April and not in June.
Okay, I have one final question, and then I'll turn the podium over. When the draft copies were received, were they sent for the purpose of getting further documentation, and were they revised at this level, either by members of the administrative staff or the solicitor?
I would volunteer that we did indeed recommend suggestions for clarity, for completeness, for accuracy, for full representation. I think each of us, speaking for Art and Bud, who can speak for themselves, did indeed recommend additional comments. We often asked questions that required more answers.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, go ahead. Did someone else want to address that?
I want to add to that if you listened carefully as the solicitor read the report, you'll recall sections where the authors suggested data was provided to it by the school district through the senior management, I think is the reference used, and that we had to determine by reading the final draft of the document that in fact we did do those things they represented our having done for them as a part of their visit and as a part of their review.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mrs. Stewart, Mr. O'Donnell, let Mrs. Stewart go ahead. You were up once already.
Mary Ann Stewart, Upper Gwinnett Township. Could you, I guess it would be Mr. Bartle, define what is senior management? In the report, the term senior management is used. Who exactly is senior management?
I guess I would ask Mr. Veman to do that, but since he's not here, I would assume, well, let me let Dr. Bose do it, since he would do it. My assumption would have been that it was Dr. Bose, Mr. Weir, and Mr. Wood.
Okay.
But if there's another assumption.
Mr. Bartle's right.
Okay, thank you.
Bose, Weir, and Wood.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you. The old guys. No. He said that. I make sure that was caught on film.
Age discrimination.
No. I just wanted to clarify who that was.
You have both.
The cost of the document was?
I don't think the cost of the document is completely broken out at this point in time.
You can just give me a total sum.
I don't know that I can give you a total sum with respect to the document. That's for the school district to do, not for the solicitor to do.
I'm
but,
sorry.
But I don't know. I don't know what is. I don't know that we actually have anything broken out as to the cost of the document. Remember, there was preliminary work done.
I'm just
not
asking for the
preliminary work.
total
There was a
cost,
significant
whether
amount.
it was preliminary,
of,
whatever is associated with the document is fine.
There was a significant amount of work done that was not related to the document that was billed for in June, in mid-June. There was then work that was done with respect to hiring the financial manager in the district. There was then work done that had to do with the report. I don't have any breakdown with respect to that. I won't provide you with any information concerning that. The district would have to do that.
And when would that be able to be done then? I don't know who I should I be asking you?
That would be for them to do, not for the solicitor.
Certainly it will occur when the board authorizes payment of the bill.
Okay.
And certainly before that occurs, there will be a check with the officials, the authors of the report, to determine if there's any further claims to be made, or in fact the claims that have been made are a fair representation of the services provided. But eventually, the whole report, as it pertains to the cost, has to be a subject of an action by the board in a public meeting.
So it will be done at a public meeting,
Yes, ma'am.
the final cost, okay. When this was termed a draft, I guess between whether you use the sports analogy of ping pong or tennis that's been used here tonight, when this was a draft, I think that's the terminology you're using, had any board member any access to this at all? Can all of you say that you have not seen whether it was called a draft or a, can I ask that of each board member, if you have all not, that your first time?
I didn't see it.
Can I ask that?
Oh,
I don't know
it's
that.
not traditional to pull the members of the board. You can always do that after the meeting. To my knowledge, if they did, I'd like to know who had one.
So you're saying you have not seen it, Mrs. Shearer?
No, I tell you this, this board has been implicated, some members, particularly I think our board president as well as our solicitor, as having some sort of controlling realm, and perhaps it may come down to me as finance liaison. I will say the only time I had any communications with Mr. Vayman was when there was an administrative report issued to this full board together in a room. I have not had any contact. Contrary, Mr. Allen has made phone calls, but that is not to, indicate him either. I'm saying that we as a board were not the overseers, nor was our solicitor. It was, in fact, Dr. Bose, by terms of the agreement, as I recall, that was designated to administrate over this process. And I had to visit Dr. Bose, and I believe he will verify this, in response to the things being published into the paper, as to what was the status of this, when did he actually receive it, given the fact that there's been claims that there was a report stored for several months in a drawer, or indicating a long point of time while the district had yet to receive it. And at that time, I confirmed the information that they both agreed. October 14th, they received this draft, final draft version, pending any changes, on the same day. Outside of that, I sat and received this report with the rest of the board.
So up until
Tonight in
October
executive
14th, you're saying that that's
No,
when you
other
saw-
than the one administrative meeting in which there was we had that touching base in the summer of the preliminary report.
So you got some preliminary
But it
details
went right
about the
back.
draft.
We did not, as a matter of fact, it was turned right back.
But let me clarify that.
And-
What Mrs. Scherer is referring to was essentially a letter of representations. It was not the report in the format that you see this evening.
I understand that.
It was a
letter.
letter. It was
That's
no,
what I'm referring
actually,
to.
it really wasn't even a draft of this.
No.
It was a different document entirely that was essentially those things that were being told by the administration to Deloitte and Touche. That's really what my recollection of that particular document was, more than this. This format I did not see for some time, until some time after that.
If I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would volunteer that, as board secretary, I never distributed a draft or any of the several drafts to any board member. And to the best of my knowledge, no board member ever held copies of any draft. And that it was only yesterday afternoon when the courier delivered them to each home that final copies, were distributed to the board. I would repeat that to the best of my knowledge, no board member ever held any of the draft copies that were being worked on back and forth between those of us in this office, sometimes referred to as senior management in this discussion, and Deloitte and Touche representatives.
So the ping pong was between basically senior management and Deloitte and Touche?
That's correct.
Basically, that's, okay.
Did we all answer, though? I think some of us did.
I'm sorry?
I got this yesterday afternoon, and I'm sure everybody else did. And you know,
You're pointing to
you
the
read-
final report?
Yeah, you read the paper, it sounds as if, oh, this person has a report, that person's report. Whatever Frank said, when was it, April? Or what was that date? No, when we got together as a full board, when was that?
Oh, that was probably in June. Tom.
June, okay? June, whatever that was, and it certainly wasn't a report. That's the last I had any contact or anything about any type of, there wasn't even a report then. It was more what they were gonna do, if I remember right. And we got together as a board. Haven't heard anything since. You know, then you start reading the paper the last couple weeks, you think that there's this, this person has that information. That's a bunch of baloney. I got it yesterday, okay? And I really like to have some more time to digest it even for tonight, you know? But we got it, we talked about it, and that's it. And I think it's the same for all the other board members.
I'm just asking, just a simple question, yes or no is fine. It sounds like there are 9 no's that did not see the draft. That's all I'm asking. I'm not responding or reacting to anything in the paper. Thank you. I'm going to switch gears just a second. You had the discussion on the volunteer, Dr. Hassler, on the volunteer coordinator for the technology program. Am I clear that you're inviting the volunteer technology coordinator from each elementary building?
Correct.
Are you sure that there is a volunteer technology coordinator in each of the buildings?
Well, excuse me, if there isn't, the building principal will recommend someone who could fill that position.
Because I question whether there is, I know of 2 schools that have that, of the elementary I'm speaking of. That is not a standard position in most of.
Well, the intent, whether it's
It's just to have a parent volunteer
somebody
there.
from each of the buildings.
And you will use that terminology after the point. And can I understand, could you clarify the point of the meeting or the gathering? What do you hope to get from that meeting?
I would say it's just another piece in the whole process of trying to pull together a curriculum recommendation. We know that there's various things happening in various buildings, and what we want to do is take a look at those things that are most effective from building to building so that we can start to make a recommendation that if this is happening at Montgomery and it's good for 3rd graders, we would like to see it in all buildings.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. O'Donnell. Is there anybody else who hasn't gone first? Yes, madam.
I'm sitting down.
Hi, Dolores McCaddy, Tominson Township. Just a couple of quick questions. Would this, for those of us who can't stay as late as we'd like to tonight to pick up this report, the financial report, will we be able to pick that up here at the ESC tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Okay, fine. I also would like to encourage you to air the copy of the forum that was held by the League of Women Voters that was made available to us, to the school district. This was done at their expense. And if there is a question of litigation, is it a possibility of putting at the bottom of the screen that this was made available by the League of Women Voters and that this is nothing that the school district did? Because as a parent that always can't get to these forums, I am very interested in what the candidates have to say. And I do sometimes in the middle of doing wash and other things to put on Channel 16. That is the most convenient channel for me to catch these things on, and I'm sure for many other parents too. So I would really urge you to seriously consider putting this on. I appreciate what the League of Women Voters did by making this available at their expense. And Dr. Hassler, maybe you can answer this. Back to what was asked previously, are you looking for these people, the volunteer corps people for technology in the schools, to give you numbers of pieces of equipment or any of that information? Or because I was under the impression that the principals were meeting and giving a lot of information as to what was going on in the school. And I didn't know if this was possibly going to be a duplication of what you've already, I assumed, had been told by principals. I'm confused as to what these people can tell you in addition to what the principals have already told you.
Well, basically, it's to look at curriculum, and there might well be redundancy between principals and what the volunteers are saying, but we're trying to get as much feedback as possible before we put a recommendation together so that when we do, we haven't missed any of the parties. So there may be some redundancy, but we also feel in some cases those volunteers are almost closer on a day-to-day basis than even the principals who are managing the entire building. Mm-hmm. So there may be, but I think...
Okay, so you're not actually looking for numbers of as to what equipment's in the school?
Programs, software, et cetera.
So you're just looking for another opinion in addition to what, but the principals have already provided you with...
Some direction, and they'll provide more.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify, because I think we were all kind of confused as to, we were all under the impression that the principals had already given you, quite a bit of information. And one other quick question. Mr. Wood, I'm confused. The bids for the high school seem to be coming in quite a bit more, and I know that it's estimates when you put this out, and that some things do come in over bid, but there was quite a few items that were added. And I'm looking at a base bid with recommended alternate bids of like almost $16 million, and I thought we had a cap of 18 on this. How close is it? Is this going to affect the final cost of the high school? I'm a little confused here.
We're really looking at a total bid of 50, a recommendation of $15,989,727. When we get to that part on the agenda, and I'll attempt to answer it now, we will explain to you some of the changes, and you were part of them, quite frankly, that occurred after we had established our budget, which I believe goes back to October of 1996. Right. We established the budget.
I don't see what I had to do with the roof or the lighting on this.
If you recall, and you have to...
Because that's $945,900.
You have to look at the bid tab, and then you have to go back, and quite frankly, I'm proud of my estimate. I had estimated initially, and the reason we bid that as an alternate, the base bid for the roof is, I believe, without looking at it, I almost have it memorized as 169,000 is the base bid, and then we add 945,000, this is off the top of my head,
right,
which is actually, and the reason we bid it as an alternate, because we wanted to be able to determine what the actual replacement would cost for the existing building.
Oh, okay.
So the 169, and I'm quoting these by memory and not by...
Right, I understand that.
The 169 is the base bid to rebuild to roof the cafeteria addition and the three-story.
Story edition only, okay.
And $945,000, and the reason we did that, and the architect requested it, was to verify my estimate of 1.1 million.
For the entire...
To do just the re-roofing.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're pleased to say instead of 1.1 million, it's coming in at 945.
Okay, so we're not going to run into any real big problems with these
Well, we're not-
numbers? Because it just looked a lot.
We're not
Because I
pleased-
know we haven't paid for the, I mean, does this include, this doesn't include the 4-H?
Yes, it does.
These figures
Well, these figures do not.
No.
The total amount of 18 million.
does,
before each
so we'll be
purchase
our,
was included.
oh, okay, so this isn't going to take us over.
Well, we're gonna be over budget, and we will address that later. We're gonna be over budget for a number of reasons. And you recall that we added things to the project that we had to add to the project.
Based on the township,
Well,
yes, I
don't
mean, I
wanna
know
say
the parking.
necessarily- I have it here, I can
Okay.
see that.
I know it was the parking.
I don't wanna put the blame on the township. We have increased the scope of the project and the site work, which will be a benefit to you as a neighbor and a benefit to our students.
I don't want blame put on me as a
You're
neighbor.
not putting
I'm
it-
sorry.
you're not putting it, but you know-
We're not getting anything out of this, you know.
Well, you're
I-
getting things that weren't originally planned.
I tend to disagree with you on that, but the only thing I know you're doing is putting trees in one spot instead of another to cut down on our noise factor, but, okay.
We're moving the band practice field to the other side of the property.
That was the
Rewriting-
township, yes.
Well, I'm not here to, I'm saying we've developed a better project.
Mhm.
There were things we had to do. We also found that the original dump, when the high school was built, not that it's a big item, it's $82,000, but we have unsuitable soil in front of the auditorium because that was the dump for all the debris, so we have to replace that. So there were some things that added to the scope of the project. And the other thing that we faced was we went out at a time when everybody was going out to bid. The night before our bid opening up, the Quakertown Elementary came in at 20% over cost. Everybody's out bidding projects.
So we are not really over cost,
We're
or
going to
we,
be over
but
cost, but we're going to be within our ability to do
Do
the
the-
project and fund it out of the bond.
out of the bond issue. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else, please? Mr. O'Donnell, is this it?
Thank you. Frank O'Donnell, Hatfield Township. Just a couple comments and one note on the lighter side. First of all, I attended a forum put on by the reporter at Montgomery Township Building the other day, on Wednesday, a couple weeks ago. I saw a great plan, a great technology manager there. I'm looking for a technology manager. You should seek him out and hire him, whatever it takes. He could save us money. He can pay for his salary. If I were on this board, and if I'm sitting on this board next month, see how that goes. I'm going to recommend that we hire that director from Methacton, that technology manager from Methacton. He was great, just great. I have to get up 5 o'clock in the morning. I really can't hang around till whenever this meeting is over here tonight. Is there any chance I can get a copy of the... Thank you. Before I get to our wood, I asked him a question. I thought of a way we could save some revenue on the lighter side. Don, if we could take your tie to the bank, we'd save some money.
Yeah.
Watching the news the other night, and I saw what happened in New Jersey, and that accident where those 2 kids got hurt. It made me think of school buses and the public safety. Not to equate our school buses with these F-16s that are crashing, but the Air Force had seven of them crash last month or whatever, so they had to stand down and look at all their safety procedures. I'm not saying there's anything wrong, but I don't want to wait till anything happens. I talked a little bit to Art about this during the break, and he indicated that they constantly go over the safety procedures. But I just want to mention it again because I don't want to wait till something happens. I also happened to see on the news that nothing could have prevented that bus, that there was an older fellow that hit those 2 kids. But I saw those New Jersey buses where they had these arms come out. And I know you try to do what you do, but I'm just wondering the cost of these arms, if it could ever save one kid's life.
Let me
What would it be worth?
Let me just respond somewhat by saying that we have constant driver training and safety training with our drivers, And I guess the thing that would circumvent a Jersey-type accident is not the arm. The arm functions for the safety of the driver. When we look at the deaths that occur in the United States as related to school buses, it's because drivers don't see kids, kids fall down and they drive over them. The function of the arm is to make the youngster walk out in front of the arm so the driver has visibility.
I understand that. I understand what happened in New Jersey.
In New Jersey, the way that we try to circumvent having an accident similar to the one that they experienced in Jersey the other day, which was tragic, is we try to make all of our pickups and drops, as many as we can, there are some exceptions, on the side of the road where the door is, so that youngsters are not typically, and especially if you looked at that roadway, that was a heavily traveled roadway. And we try to always keep our drops on the right side. We have exceptions to that, but that is the way you can certainly.
I understand, but it just made me think that sometimes should we all just take 2 steps back and look at what we're doing? I'm not saying anything's wrong.
Type of
I just hate to see in the news tomorrow an accident.
That type of accident sends a message to our people, and really is of great concern to our drivers. And I think, once again, we were honored for the number of miles of safe driving, and I said to you early, you always hold your breath. It's a difficult every day when we put out as many buses and we travel as many miles as we do, but we are very, very proud of our safety training and our safety record in Northfield schools. And I don't know how I would ever deal with a similar accident. It leaves a scar on any transportation person for a long time.
I would imagine. Again, I feel for the parents. I just made me think of sometime just discuss it, that's all.
I thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else, please? Yes.
Mary Ann Stewart, Upper Gwinnett. I know it's getting late, but I think President Mengel, had it been any other candidate up here standing, making a statement, if I am on the board next month, we'll just wait and see, you would be all over them, and rightfully so, as this gentleman just did. I think it's inappropriate, and what I think is even more inappropriate is that you did not recognize it as political posturing, as you have accused others of doing, and have not addressed the issue to him at this moment. I think that is, maybe you were distracted, but I think you made an error in judgment by not berating him for the comments he just made, and I have seen you do it to other candidates.
Well, Mrs. Stewart, you know, maybe I was distracted, but I know I'm not the campaign police. Maybe you are, but I'm not.
You have made comments to a candidate sitting in this office, and you can review tapes when they have made comments and accused them. And you have not done so here. You are not following the rule across the board.
May I speak?
Well,
I offer you an apology. That was not my intent.
I know.
My intent was
No, I know that's not your intent, nor was it anyone else's way.
My intent was that I saw a man do a fantastic job of presentation. He was excellent. He was fantastic. And I'm thinking, boy, wouldn't it be great if North Penn School District could hire this fellow? That's what my intent was. I mean, he did a fantastic job. He was great. I know you're looking for somebody. And I would just entertain the idea that you give him a call. And maybe I ad-libbed a little bit. If that was wrong, I apologize.
Mr. O'Donnell, thank you for apologizing. That's being a gentleman. I appreciate that. Yes, Mr. Taylor.
Bill Taylor, Lansdale. I also enjoyed that forum put on by the League of Women Voters and the reporter. And the gentleman from the Facton narrated a 15-year history, as I recall, developing a program. And he talked about the terrific diplomacy and strategy that needs to be developed to do this kind of thing. And frankly speaking, this board isn't up to it yet. You've got to work an awful lot harder than you are now to do what the man from the Facton needs. He was willing to wait, he moved, but it took 15 years. Maybe it was 10, I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Is that it? Anybody else, please? Okay, thank you.
I recommend the approval of a waiver of tuition status for a student whose name is on file in the Office of Special Education and Student Services in accordance with School Board Policy 5118.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mosey, second by Krieger. Board questions to the right? The left? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
I recommend the ratification, approval of the transportation service contracts that is, for the 97-98 school year as presented on item 123-97.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by White, second by Scher. Questions to the left? To the right? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
I recommend approval to eliminate the morning and afternoon crossing guard for Penfield students at Broad Street and Wayne Avenue, as has been approved by the Hatfield Township Public Safety Committee and the Hatfield Borough Council and presented on item 126-97.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mosey, second by White. Board questions to the right?
Art, could you just please, for the viewing audience, just give us a brief justification for the removal?
Yeah, this request came forth, and if you look at the attachments, and everyone in the audience has them, from Hatfield Township, from the safety officer in Hatfield Township, and if you look further, you will see that since it links Hatfield Township with Hatfield Borough, that Hatfield Borough Council has in fact at a public meeting approved the elimination, and the Hatfield Township Public Safety Committee has also approved the elimination of these services.
Okay.
And
Safety issue.
one of the things that they did that I think is to be commended for is they did a study of the situation, of that particular crossing, and their results are indicated in the attached document.
Great. Safety issues.
Questions to the left?
Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
I recommend approval to accept a $7,500 presidential award for excellence in mathematics and science teaching to Ms. Carolyn Gibson Crew of Gwinnett Square Elementary School to be used at Ms. Crew's discretion at Gwinnett Square. And I'll say as a corollary to this, what you already know, that Ms. Crew was a winner at a national level for excellence in elementary education, teaching of math and science. And this is the result of her award.
Second.
Okay, motion by Schilling, second by Scher. Questions to the left? Right? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you. Mr. Vigilante?
I recommend approval to submit, accept, and operate an Educate America Act grant, goals 200,000, if awarded by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Education, as presented to you on item 128-97.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Schilling, second by Whites. Questions to the left?
Not a question, just a comment for the board's edification. When we received our green sheets on this particular item, the board liaison noted on that sheet was Mr. Allen. I contacted Dr. Hassler, and in tonight's packet before the public, it was corrected to my name.
The left? I mean to the right, I'm sorry.
This goes 2,000 grant is one of those grants in question. As earlier mentioned, that we will be seeking it, but for another discipline use?
Yes.
Yes, basically what we're looking for is for staff development in relation to becoming, implementing the standards.
Right, we do academic standards.
What was our receipts last year? Was that $200,000 approximately, Dr. Hassler?
I think approximately 200,000.
I think it's 250 for the.
On the green.
Thank you.
It's 250.
Okay, any questions, any further questions to the right? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
I recommend the board approve Dr. Barbara Kramer as assistant principal at Penndale Middle School at an annual salary of $69,000. And please note, it would be effective October 27th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Krieger, second by Schilling. Board questions to the right? Left?
Yes. Dr. Bose, that's changed from November 3rd to the 27th?
That's correct.
And whom is she replacing, please?
She's replacing Mrs. Coffey, who went to become principal of Inglewood.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, would say nay. Thank you.
Recommend approval of change order in the amount of $31,864.08 to Built Right Contractors, Inc. for all of the necessary masonry changes required to complete Penndale Middle School renovations. The original contract sum was $5,749,000. The new contract sum, including change orders 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, is $5,837,106.03.
So moved. Motion by Schilling,
Second.
second by Allen. Board questions to left? Right?
Yes, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon.
He didn't know, he doesn't know his right.
Left and right. Yeah. It's getting late. Art, we're over budget on this thing?
No, we're way under budget.
You said the original contract called for $5,749,000, and this will now bring up to $5,837,000.
In any change order, what that shows is what we originally awarded to them.
Okay.
And where they are with the change orders.
Okay.
Because the budget, as we indicated, we had a contingency fund of $700,000. We have spent $88,106.03. I will be coming back with additional change orders, but we will be well within. We said from the beginning, when we first awarded this project, that on any renovation project, you typically allow for 3 to 5% for change orders because of the unknowns. It's obvious that we're going to be well under that, and I will report to the board next month because I just recently looked at it. On a project as small as Montgomery, we had change orders that were approached $200,000. The point being, we go through, and we're spoiled, quite frankly. We go through a Bridal, a Walton, and a Gwinnett Square with no change orders because it's new construction, which is pretty much unheard of, to have no change orders. And Michael's here as an architect, and he can attest to what you run into with renovations. And one of the ways that you need to approach this is that if we had known the condition exists prior to bid, it would have been part of the bid document and would have reflected in the initial cost. But when you find it afterwards, you need to go back and do the change order. Our problem with bringing them to you, and it has not been a timely fashion most recently, because we have to go out and confirm it. The contractor comes in with one price, we have to go out and physically measure all of the additional masonry that went in, and that's really the architect's responsibility, and he is doing that.
So what you're saying then really is that out of the $700,000 contingency so far, we've only spent $88,000?
That's correct.
Any idea what the other changes?
I think we're probably facing an additional, and this is just a guesstimate at this point, $100,000 or $125,000.
And that should be it.
And that should be it.
Thank you very much. That's all, Madam President.
Okay, any further questions left? Right?
Yes, Art, is this the same motion that was indicated in the reporter that said we were taking a $5,749 job to with a $31,800?
Unfortunately, if you look at your motion, there's a typo. If you look at the new contract price sum, including change orders 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Well, there's periods.
And I think that it should be $5,837,106. There's a period after the 837.
Right, well, we never carry out our digits to that tenth of a degree, so I think that should be pretty obvious. We're not going down to that percentage, but, so this is what was referenced in the paper, and it turns out that it was actually on a $5.75 million contract.
That's correct.
I just wanted to make sure that.
And I think the other
one of the
positive
same
thing,
things.
and I think it was by a lot of arm twisting, that you won't see change orders with the mechanical contractors, and that's unusual. I mean, they ran into problems. We opened the ceiling, there was a beam there, and they had to reroute sprinkler, plumbing, electrical, and HVAC. But through some arm twisting, we got it done with no change order.
You made the sale.
Anybody else to the right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, would say nay. Thank you.
I recommend that you approve Robert L. Bryant Jr. Esquire to represent North Penn School District in all matters pertaining to the request for a zoning change of the former 4-H property. The fee for this service shall be $85 per hour.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Krieger, second by Mosey. Questions to the right? Left? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Thank you.
Recommend approval to engage sealed bid services to dispose of surplus industrial arts equipment by sealed bids. The cost for this service shall be 18% of the total proceeds.
So moved.
Motion by Schilling.
Second.
Second by Whites. Questions to the left?
Do we have an estimate of how much money we're expecting?
No, we really don't.
Okay.
I just know that any time, this will be the third time that I've been involved in the bidding process, and we've always been very much surprised. Our first bid being at West Point Elementary, our second being at Montgomery Elementary, and now not having a site to hold it on. That's the advantage of using sealed bid. It will go to their place of business in Camp Prussia, and it will be a sealed bid. I think we'll be pleasantly surprised. They did the same thing for the tech school. Those of you on the tech school board will realize that you appreciated more money than you had anticipated.
Expected, right. To the right? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ward.
I recommend approval to proceed with public bidding of all furniture and computer equipment for the North Penn High School Library Technology Improvement Project.
Second.
Motion by Schilling, second by Whites, but before we go any further with comment, may I please go first based on conversations I've had with many of you on all sides of this issue. I understand there's a good solid majority, if not 9 of you, that want to send these items out to bid. The only thing that I heard different from quite a number of board members was that could the furniture be bid now and the computer equipment be bid 45 days prior to the completion of Art's work and his crew, so that we get the freshest possible bid. Would the board be open to that and a possible change in that motion?
That's personally was my concern, that there are some products that you can say, you know, it means a price savings to say that you've got today's prices, yesterday's prices for today's purchases, but computer equipment happens to be one that's quite the opposite. I really felt that if we bid this too far in advance of when the infrastructure is going to be ready, we're going to be in a position of whether we accept or reject bids that are very much outdated and where there's been a great deal of depreciation on the equipment. So that's the only concern, is that it's more timely towards the end of the completion, leaving yourself enough time for the equipment to be received and be ready and not stall the project, but at the same time most appropriate for such a evolving prices. The evolving prices of computers would be great. Is that under? Is that
Mr.
Mr.
Williams?
Leanne?
To amend the motion?
We will, of course, as you would expect, abide by your wishes and the wishes of the majority. If we look at a 4-week process for 3 weeks of advertising and awarding bids at the next scheduled meeting, regularly scheduled meeting, and if we look at, pardon?
She said okay.
And if we hope to install during the winter holiday, and if our goal is to be open in January, we need to be relatively assured that we should proceed with the electrical work, and that we should get involved in the bidding. I hear 45 days, and I see them going by between now and January 1st or January 15th in a hurry. So I don't think there's that much time difference. You follow me?
Mr. Weir, talking with Mr. Wood,
That's where it
he
came from.
projected that you may not have that building wired before the middle to the end of January, possibly looking at February.
Right.
Plus the fact I also had concern that in talking to a consultant and buying computers, you've broken out Windows 95 and Office Pro 97.
We've changed that.
Oh, well, it's not changed here.
Yeah, it's not changed.
That's right. We changed that.
They're included in a lot of the computers you buy today.
buy them with that loaded on.
Right.
That's exactly right.
We understand that.
Okay.
Mr. Wood, do you want to add anything here?
Well, I would just recommend that we begin advertising for furniture. That's going to be our lead time.
Right.
And that should happen Monday, and we should have a recommendation for the November board meeting for the furniture.
Right.
We will proceed, our people are chomping and know the availability of materials.
Right.
We will probably begin next weekend on the wiring process at the high school. And as far as our completion date, I mean, I think it's imperative, and unless Ken disagrees, that we have furniture before we open the lab. And I see that being the lead. I mean, that has been a problem. And that's why I'd like to start, I think it's important that we start that right now.
Okay, could a possible amendment here be recommend approval to proceed with public bidding of all furniture, electrical wiring processes started immediately,
Data line wiring,
and computer equipment for the North Penn High School Library Improvement Project be bid 45 days before anticipated completion of project.
Of the preliminary work.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Well, you get the call when your anticipated date is anyway.
Well, I think.
And certainly, I don't care whether it's
Ken will
45
certainly
or
know
if it's,
from vendors
Right.
what the lead time is on delivery. And I would expect that we will begin that process in November with the understanding that you award in December.
I think we've heard the intent of your wish.
that's good.
Of course, we accept the intent of your wish, and we'll proceed accordingly. I would hope that we would not have to come back a second time to vote again on the intent of this wording.
No.
No,
You get it tonight and it's done, it's over with.
I don't want it removed or anything separated out. Just
Okay, we understand
We
the
just want to get the
intent.
best price we can.
Till 45 days.
Mr. Schilling, would you amend your motion to read? Mr. Whites, would you amend your second?
To
It's only for the delay.
Bid of furniture immediately, wiring to start immediately.
They delay ordering the computer equipment to the last possible day to
No,
make
no,
sure
no.
it gets in on time?
We're gonna bid the furniture first,
Get the
we're
best
gonna bid
price.
the computers later.
Get the
They
best
have a
price.
lot
Fine.
of time.
You amend-
Furniture now, computers later.
Well,
That's the amendment?
But we have the
Yes.
authority to proceed to develop the specs. and
Right,
bid.
right.
Fine. Okay,
And we don't have to come back.
right.
Right.
It's approved.
Keep moving. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
HBA3, bid award recommendations. The high school addition is here, and rather than treating it as one of among several bids, I'm going to ask Mr. Wood if he would give a quick overview of what this represents. It's an extension of Mr. Mosey's earlier remarks about the project, the bidding process, the analyzing the bids and the awarding of the bids. And we also have a member of the Breslin firm here, Mike Ackerman, to assist us if we need any technical help with that regard. And Mike, I appreciate your staying so long. I know you have school board meetings, so we've given you an extra dose tonight.
Mr. Mosey does have a motion that he will put on the floor, and then maybe at that point, Dr. Bose will open up. It's an all-inclusive motion that is an intent to award.
The motion, it begins as, the Board of the School Directors of the North Penn School District recommend approval of their intent to award the construction contracts listed below for the additions and renovations to the existing North Penn High School. Each contract is awarded based on the lowest responsible bid with the inclusion of the recommended alternates. The award of each contract is contingent upon the receipt of satisfactory and properly executed contracts, bonds, and certificates of insurance. Award is also contingent upon receiving satisfactory approval of Plan-Con forms from the Pennsylvania Department of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Now, it's important that we incorporate.
I must say, Furthermore, recommend approval to submit Plan Con Part G documents to the Pennsylvania Department of Education for the construction of additions and alterations to the North Penn High School. Now I need a...
So you made your first motion to include furthermore. Do you do the same, Mrs. Sharp, for the second? Okay, board questions to the right. Mr. Clemens.
Only, what is the item number we're having this under? Did I hear that? The item number, it's not on the agenda.
Yes, it is.
Under the bid award, recommend award of the following
Bid award is
bids.
second item, Vic.
Oh, my gosh,
we
both looked here and couldn't
We
find
do
a
have
single thing.
we have Mr. Ackerman here. I will quickly share with the board the alternates that we have chosen, and you will see and explain them as we go through. If you look at the document you received and the community or the public has in their possession, and that's the document that is entitled and generated by Breslin, Midyard, and Federo for the actual award. If you look under, and we'll quickly go through this, if you look under general construction, there is no acceptance of any of the alternates. We merely bid the alternates, looking for the actual price, and we have agreed under general construction, there will be no alternate bid. If you look at HVAC, there are two alternates that we will accept. H3 provides another manufacturer that we're comfortable with for our chiller, air handling equipment, unit ventilators, and all our cabinet heaters, and that is a deduct of $13,000. We're very comfortable in taking that alternate. If you look at H6, we specifically bid the in-ground fuel oil storage tank with the understanding that we could, in fact, heat the addition with gas only, but after we looked at the comparison in cost between gas and oil and what may be happening in the future and the prices we currently have for number 2 fuel oil, we're recommending that we accept the $52,000 add alternate for the fuel oil tank. It still gives us the capability, we will have dual fuel. We can burn gas, but as with any interruptible gas heat, when the magic number is when it becomes 20 degrees in West Conshohocken, you must go on oil. So we need to have, we're recommending the oil tank. Under the electrical construction, 2 items that we bid as an alternate, and we actually bid 3, but we're recommending 2. The first one is the installation of new tennis court lighting in light of the fact that the existing lighting has been there since 1971. Many of you drive by, it's on, and there's no one playing. The new lighting will be coin op, and it will only be on when the meter is slugged with coins to turn it on. So it's new lighting as well as coin op, a coin op feature. The second item, which we feel is very important to many of our programs at the high school, many of you are aware of the new soccer field and band practice field we built next to the tennis court. We are going to be lighting that for an add of $14,000. The advantage of that is we will move band practice off of the stadium and onto that field. And we will also take the band off of the parking lot whenever possible because of the concern with shin splints from marching on macadam. So that is a nice feature, and we're pleased with that price. Under fire suppression, we had 1 alternate bid. We're not accepting that alternate bid. No alternate bids under the food service. The alternate bid that we're accepting under the roofing construction is to re-roof the existing building in the amount of $945,900. Site work, we are accepting SW1, which is the alternate number 1, which will, if you recall throughout the entire process, we had considerable discussion about taking the homes on Valley Forge Road that currently have septic systems and providing them with a sewer link through our property. That $25,178 will be reimbursed by Towamencin Township. But we bid it as an alternate so we would know what their actual cost would be. If you have questions for Michael, he has spent the evening here. Fortunately, I told him to bring a book, so he hasn't been reading for a while. But He's here to help you with any questions that you might have.
They gave him a copy of the report, so he had that to read.
I have a question, just a general question. When we started this project and we saw the preliminary plans and the preliminary layout and the rooms and what this building was going to have and what it wasn't going to have and so forth and so on, is this thing that we're voting on tonight relative to the bid meet all of those original intents and plans that were in that? Have we added, everything was there originally, the number of rooms, all the other things are still basically the same?
Yes, sir,
Yes.
and then some.
Okay.
Sorry, is that all, Mr. Hill?
I'm done.
Mr. Wood, I realize this is the addition and sort of renovations around the property. Is there anything in here that would address rehabbing the football practice field? I know requests have been made, and also to get, what is it, hot water or whatever it is down into the concession stand?
No, that is not included here. I think if we were to do the hot water piece, now, one of the reasons we never ran water to the concession stand, and really it's been a hardship for our people that need water in the garage for filling lining machines and so forth, was that we had direct burial cable feeding the lighting in the stadium. And we had no as-built drawings, so no one had the desire to trench across them. If you recall, we were hit by lightning. That has now been put in conduit, and I have a better comfort level of taking a ditch witch and trying to put water in the refreshment stand.
So give that some consideration.
We will.
And also the
Rehabbing
practice field?
I'm hearing that for the first time tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have not had that request.
Oh,
The
I know
practice
some people better
field,
get off my back.
when we first took over in 1980, the practice field did not have a stick of grass on it. Fortunately, now we have some grass on it.
Okay. Well, I will check those that are on me about holes. Okay.
Are we just discussing the addition now, or are we discussing all the bids?
Just
the addition right now.
We'll come back to the others.
Okay.
I might also mention that if you recall, the $231,842 for food service equipment will be paid for out of the food service account.
Absolutely. Any questions to the right?
Go ahead. Art, I'm just curious, as the roofing over the existing building was bid as an alternate, is there some savings that we're seeing from having the same contractor do the addition and the new building? Is that why it was done that way?
It was our intent in the beginning to do it as one project. It takes a very special roofer because of the size of the project, but we had more bids than we had anticipated. So it's going to be an ambitious schedule because we're asking to have that done between the beginning of June and Labor Day this coming summer. So that's a major undertaking.
If it was the only project to do the existing building, any estimate of what that cost would be? If you had to just bring them in cold and say,
I
do
think
building?
there probably would have been a 20% premium, don't you, Michael? Absolutely. Minimally.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Art, you mentioned the other day when you expected to have groundbreaking on this.
I need to tell you, we have dealt with the dam permit, and I mean, a dam permit. And I need to tell you with a great feeling of accomplishment that we received approval today to build our dam. That has been a real problem.
Right.
And that's been over our head. We have approval now.
I know
First, we need to build the dam and do the water retention before we do any other work. So that will begin by the site contractor. And then, if you've been to the high school lately, you'll see that we've put up some temporary lighting using the old poles from the 4-H because we're required to light what will be the new gravel parking. So that will begin initially. And then we will begin taking out islands, revising the parking area, and fencing the work site. It is our intent with phasing that construction will begin first on the cafeteria area. We're hoping that with all of our cafeteria renovations, that we will occupy them for September '98, which will really be a nice thing if it happens for us. We have no reason to believe that it won't. It's going to be an ambitious summer because we're doing a new dish room, a new faculty dining room, and 2 serving lines in a new 240-seat cafeteria. So when you look at that, but we have a comfort level that we can do it.
We have a high level of interest in the community to watch that, to witness that groundbreaking, so I would really appreciate that.
Well, I would suggest that anyone that wants a taste of what it will be like, you should go and see what Breslin did at CB West with neighbors that said this was going to be a monstrosity, it's not going to work. If you would drive by CB West, you'll see a beautiful project that is very similar to ours, where they took the existing high school and put a two-story addition out front.
Okay, we do have a motion, a second on the table, do we not? All in favor would say aye.
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 Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
Now we'll return to the other bids, excluding the high school project, which you just approved. I recommend you approve the other, awarding of the other bids as presented in item BA-6 for action this evening.
So moved.
Motion by Schilling,
Second.
second by Mosey. Questions to the right? Left? Yes.
I just have one in regards to the science supplies. Grade level for these supplies?
K-12.
Okay, are these, are the K through 8 supplies in line with the current MICE project that's going on?
Yes.
And was there a list submitted by those to you on what supplies to seek?
We were working from a list that came from the science people and from Donna Brown, and we did everything that was requested.
Okay, thank you.
I'd just like to make a note, Madam President, if I may. We have a motion on here to approve the office mailing machine, but I noticed that it's been rejected, so that
Doesn't include it.
this should not be included in our
But you do have to act on the recommendation.
Oh, okay, is that what we're doing?
Check.
Okay.
All in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
Recommend the board accept the gifts as noted for 2 of our elementary schools.
So moved.
Motion by Mosey,
Second.
second by Krieger. Questions to the right? Left?
Just like to say thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
Before we consider personnel, I know Dr. Miller wants to note some corrections.
Yes, and I apologize to the board for not catching these earlier. Under the personnel nominations, professional, you will see the name Nora Weber. Under contract, could you change professional to long-term sub, LTS, please? Under support staff, if you would go down to number 18, where it says Greg Stein, if you would omit that, please, from the agenda. That's a recent omission, and we needed to do that tonight. If you would go to resignations directly underneath that for professional, you will see there's a double three there. It should be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's a double 2 and a double 3. And if you'll note, Leona Hostert should be changed from a resignation to a retirement. All the others are resignations, 1, 2, 3, and 5. Number 4 becomes a retirement. That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Is that what we're doing? Okay.
That's why I separated.
We're doing nominations first.
Okay, yeah. Motion on nominations.
So moved.
Motion by Mosey, second by Schilling. Questions to the left?
Yes, Dr. Bose, I noticed that we have 9 classroom aides on this list.
Yes, sir.
We approved 10. And then I see we have 2 math aides and 1 special ed aide. Is that in addition to what we, last month, we gave you permission to hire 10 aides?
Classroom aides.
Okay.
The math aides and the special ed aides are separate and apart from that, Mr. Moses.
Were they in the budget, or is this over and
Yes,
above?
They're in the budget.
So we're down to 1 more aide before you might have to come back for more if necessary.
I think it's 2.
Well, there's 9 here.
One is a replacement, though. Some of them are
okay.
new, and sometimes
So
they're
these aren't
replacements.
9 new then?
No, 8 of them are brand new, and 1
Okay.
is a replacement. And also, Mr. Mosey, I think you probably are aware, but just as a reminder, We often have to come to you during the course of the year for special education needs,
Right.
such as special ed aids, and
Right.
we always tell you in advance of those.
Well, what I was getting at is, in the budget, we had, I think, made provisions for 5 special ed aides.
Yes, but the needs, that was.
Have we used up that allocation?
Yes, we did. We used those
This is over
up.
and above the 5?
Yes,
we're up
it
to
is.
6.
We may be on 7 at this point. We've sent you information on all of those, and we will certainly continue to do that.
Thank you.
Questions around?
The only question that I have is I noticed on tonight's agenda in particular, most of the positions listed here are ratifications.
I can help you with that, Mrs. Krieger, and I have the same concern you do, but the situation is that these are all mostly aide positions. And I think Dr. Bose had directed me that we were to hire them immediately, and then we would ratify them at the meeting because we needed them as soon as possible. If you take a look at their start dates and their effective dates, they were back earlier than tonight, and we needed them before. We needed them to be in the classrooms.
No, I understand on those. It's the rest of the personnel list. Most of them tonight are ratifications tonight. I don't understand.
Yeah, we've had meetings since before that. If you remember, Madam President, that was one of the problems we had about
When
2
we
years
first
ago. When we
came
first
on.
got on the board, we always had a lot of ratifications, and I thought that we addressed that and corrected that. That Mrs. Krieger's right, almost all these appointments are ratifications.
From the middle of October,
September.
in September.
Mrs. Miller, Dr. Miller, I need to share with the board that this was a paperwork issue with the bus garage. It will be coming to us in a more timely fashion in the future. Part of our problem up there is we're really hard pressed. We have everybody driving. In fact, John Cotran has had to drive a couple of days. So when we find drivers, we need to put them in place. I would agree that the September and the October 17th ratifications should come to us in a more timely fashion, and I can assure you they will in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions to left? Right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Thank you.
Recommend that you approve the 4 professional staff resignations, the 1 retirement, and the 3 support staff resignations as noted on BA 7 and 8.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Allen, second by Schilling. Board questions to the right? Left? Yes, sir.
Whenever we get these things, I'm always careful not to put people out because it kind of slights the others, but there's somebody here that has had taken care of all my children who have stayed here, and that's Mrs. Feely, and I would just like to thank her for taking care of my children and those that went to Oak Park. And I thank her for the job she did. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Krieger.
Just a couple questions, Dr. Bose, in regards to Donna Brown, the supervisor of science. What is your intent, sir, for the replacement of that position?
We have checked our current science personnel. We find no one with a supervisor's license. I'm inclined to recommend that Dave Decker assume both responsibilities for the balance of this school year. So in an effort to secure the time to look at the structure in that department with the possibility of suggesting improvements effective July 1. Dave Decker is very close to earning a certificate as a Director of Curriculum and Instruction. In fact, Dave is now talking to the people at Penn State about whether or not he has already taken the graduate work to qualify for the supervisor's license in curriculum and instruction, which enables him to supervise any area of curriculum. But for the time being, I would be inclined, once we determine if Dave is eligible for that certificate, to place him in charge of that, for the charge of science as well as math for the balance of the school year. He already is our direct liaison with the MERC project, which is science, math, and technology, and has participated in all the workshops conducted by the MISE project involving elementary and middle school teachers in science-related preparation. So I think he's qualified to do that, and he's as you all know, the kind of individual whose attitude is, yes, I can do that, give me a chance.
Okay, Dr. Bose, can you tell me whether or not the annual report, which Mrs. Brown was responsible for doing each year in regards to the Merck Science Project, which is a report that's now about this thick from last year, has that been completed for this year yet?
I cannot recall offhand, Mrs. Krieger, but I will determine that tomorrow and correspond with you directly. Are you expecting?
I'm not sure if it's been done. I haven't had any communication on this, and I'm just concerned about overwhelming Mr. Decker with that responsibility.
I will give you a direct answer tomorrow.
Thank you.
Mr. Rosie?
Yes, Heidi Miller, wasn't she a recent hire?
No,
No?
no,
Okay, name card.
other
And-
Millers.
And Mary Kay Feely, she will be in our employ until October the 31st. I thought that,
It's next Friday.
I thought her assignment was, she took a new assignment.
Next Friday's the last day.
Okay. And although I didn't have as much communication and relationship with Mrs. Brown as Mrs. Krieger did, I would just like to wish her the best and thank her for a wonderful job she has done in the science program for North Carolina.
She will be missed.
Okay, all in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay.
Recommend the board approve the position changes for 5 support staff as presented on item BA-8.
So moved.
Motion by Mosey,
Second.
second by Sharp. Questions to the right? Left? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
Recommend the board approve the 7 salary changes for support staff as presented on item BA-8 and 9.
So moved.
Motion by Krieger.
Second.
Second by Mosey. Questions to the left? Right? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
Recommend approval of the 1 leave of absence for professional staff as presented on BA-9.
So moved.
Motion by Schilling.
Second.
Second by Allen. Questions to the right? Left? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
Recommend that the board terminate the professional contract of David McCoach pursuant to section 1122 of the Pennsylvania Public School Code and accept his disability retirement.
So moved.
Motion by Mosey.
Second.
Second by Sharp. Questions to the left?
I just have a question. When a professional employee retires or goes out on disability, it's a termination of their contract, or their professional contract?
Well, this individual took a disability retirement.
Okay,
Therefore, is not going to return to work.
okay.
And we, under this law, have the right, in the absence of his initiative, to take the initiative for him. That's what we're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Questions to the right? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
Recommend approval of a salary correction for Scott Rhodes for the 96-97 school year from $36,500 to $37,000.
Motion by Schilling.
Second.
Second by Mosey. Questions to the left? Right? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
Recommend approval of additions to the professional and support staff substitute list for the 97-98 school year as presented on BA-10.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Allen, second by Mosey. Questions to the right? Left? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Thank you.
Recommend approval of salary increases due to degree improvement as presented on BA-11.
Motion by Schilling, I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mosey. Questions to the right?
Yes. I would like to see an update of the drawdown encumbered funds versus the budgeted amount at the beginning of the year. I know this area of the contract was not open to discussions, and it reflects, you know, the horizontal movement that was originally negotiated in '95. But as I'm seeing some of these increases, Judy, and as I'm following the fact that we have right now in the last two meetings, we're basically seem to be at budget or perhaps over, and we still have April, correct?
We're okay, Mrs.
Under
Shear.
the line item under degree improvement?
Yes, we are okay. I have the exact amounts for you if you would like them. And they're in two different accounts. One is for elementary and one is for secondary.
Okay.
We have spent so far, if our figures are correct, and we have checked them, $164,474 for elementary teachers for degree improvement. And for secondary teachers, we have spent $114,106. We still have the November agenda, which will have the October 31st deadline to take care of, and we will also have one in April, you're correct. However, they are usually many fewer than the ones we have in the early part of the year because most of the courses are taken over the summer.
Right. Total budgeted funds, so we're approximately 280. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. At any rate, it seems just significantly higher, and I know you did say that you anticipated it to be such.
Yes, and I think we're okay. I don't have the figure in front of me, I'm sorry, but I will definitely check it and give it to you next time we talk in November, or would you like it earlier?
No, in between, when it's ready, routine courier.
We'll be glad to do that.
I'd also say it would be helpful in some case, I think, to see the degree improvements, the actual shift that we're seeing in horizontal, because some of these are very, very significant, and you know that there's, whether it's 15, 30 extra credits or what that's been accumulated behind these pay increases. I'd appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Certainly.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
You need to come on this side.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
It's only 11:15.
I'll go
Any questions still left?
I would just like to reiterate what Mrs. Shear has said here tonight, because I know it's been brought up numerous times by numerous board members in the past about showing the actual degree improvement that has been achieved with these prep level increases. Do we need a motion in a second in order to have that in the future?
No, I'm sorry, Mrs. Krieger, I misunderstood whatever you had asked for in the past, but we will certainly include that in the future.
Okay, I don't think I was the only one that has mentioned it in the past, but nonetheless, I'd also like a copy of what you just read tonight. I can keep my own records at home. The information that you just gave to Mrs. Shear that you were
The numbers?
you were sent to her?
Certainly.
The total dollar amounts?
I will do
Where
a
we're
special memo for the board and give you
I
the
think that would be
total
appropriate.
dollars. That'll be for next week. I'll need some time to do that.
That's fine, but I think that would be appropriate.
I would be glad to.
It'd be helpful to understand what we're talking about with respect to BA, I think we're talking about BA 11.
Yes,
So
yes.
Are you interested in the degree change or the credit hour change?
The
Because the
courses.
old and the new salary and the difference is listed. So
Right.
you're interested in the degree change?
Right.
In other words-
Because
Okay,
it's
all
a
right.
degree enhancement, correct, Dr. Bose?
It's probably changing from a master's to, or
Right.
excuse me, a bachelor's to a master's.
Right, so I think that's.
Is that correct?
I think so, yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mosley?
Just, same questions they had, thank you.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, would say nay. Thank you.
Before you consider the recommendation on additions and deletions to the extra duty schedule, Dr. Hassler has a correction.
Actually, two corrections. It's on item number 129-97. Next to the name Peter D. Sembrino, head wrestling coach 7-8, there should be an asterisk indicating that he is not an employee of the school district.
Who is that,
And
please, Doctor?
D. Sembrino, Penndale, head wrestling coach. It's about the 6th, 7th last page.
Oh, okay, Peter.
Peter,
That's it.
okay.
And the second change, we received a phone call just today, and at the request of Kevin Herbst, who is being recommended as the head girls soccer coach, he has asked us to remove his name, withdraw his name for consideration based on a change in his employment that would prohibit him from participating as a coach.
So I recommend with that correction, the approval of the additions, changes, and deletions to the extra duty assignments for the 97-98 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Schilling, second by Mosey. Questions to the right? To the left?
I just have one comment, not a question. In regards to the soccer coach, I was saddened to hear this evening when I got here that the gentleman recommended here had withdrawn. At this time, I'd like to thank the committee that was brought together by Dr. Cotter and Mr. Ryan at the high school. People from the community with an interest in soccer, experience with soccer, were brought together and did an extensive, it's my understanding, did an extensive interview of numerous applicants, many who were very well qualified. It is also my understanding that one particular individual was told that she was going to be recommended to this particular nominee to be considered for the assistant soccer position. My concern is that I don't think it's necessary to reconvene the entire committee. I think that the committee did a very, very thorough job in their initial interviews, and I would hope that based on those findings, that Dr. Cotter and Dr. Ryan Doc Ryan would be able to make a recommendation to the board on their next choice at next month's meeting. That's it.
Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
Student travel, recommend that you approve the 15 activities representing student travel presented on BA-12.
So moved.
Motion by Allen,
Second.
second by Schilling. Okay, questions to the left?
Yes, I do. Ordinarily, I don't really question any of these, but I'm looking at some of these trips, and I see that I don't understand some of these dollar amounts. I see we're going to send a golf team to Penn State for $750, or not to exceed $750. And then I see we're going to send 15 students to Upper Merion for $715. We're going to send some kids to Doylestown at $660. I can see Penn State costing $750. That's about a 4 or 5 hour drive. But $750 for 15 kids to Upper Merion and $660 for 12 kids to Central Bucks West and Doylestown. Then I see $435 for 33 kids to Dings Ferry, PA, which is up in the Poconos, which is a lot farther than Marion and Doylestown. How are these figures arrived at?
Registration fees, it's not just transportation.
I think the other thing.
I would like to see something in the future, if I could, Mrs. Mango, and I'm not trying to delay the meeting. I know the lateness of the hour, but at the Technical Career Center, they do a very nice thing when we have to approve travel. They give us a breakdown of what the registration fee is, what the meals will cost, what the transportation will cost. And I think in the future, I would like to see a little more of that, because I understand there's registration fees and so forth, but the figures are just all over the board. And I'm not going to vote against this, but I'm not comfortable with some of these dollar amounts. I like more detail.
That's
in the
fair.
future.
We get a sheet on every activity.
Every activity,
that
and
leads
it's,
to
we don't
VOTEC,
have to even ask
Strel,
questions at the meeting.
Know that.
I agree.
Okay.
If I can help just a minute, you'll see the two groups going to orchestra. That's 3 days of transportation, and that's why that totals $660 and $750.
From here to Doylestown for 3 days for 12 kids is $600.
You've got layover, you've got the time to drive back, you take them over in the morning, You've got an
I
instrument.
like that run.
You've got a truck going with instruments. We'll give you the breakout, but you'll see. No, really, you'll see.
I'm not giving you a hard time, I'm just saying that.
Till you put registration and transportation together,
Jeez,
and the 3 days of transportation, it's a reality.
that's all I have, Madam President.
Any more questions on the left? Right?
Just quickly, Art, if that's the situation, are we using a commercial tour agency?
It's cost prohibitive to do that.
Okay, well, I'm wondering,
Compared to using our own people.
so you're saying this transportation, these
our
transportation costs are with our buses? Okay,
But they're charged to the activity fund.
right. Gotcha, thank you.
Okay, I just have one question. There's a request for approval, number 7, for something that'll happen May 98. Why does it have to be approved tonight?
You got April '98 too in the next page.
In many cases, they need to make reservations at this point, and if they don't get their reservations in, since May is a busy field trip month, they may not be able to
This
attend.
is a one-day trip to New York City.
If it's on a commercial bus, you have to reserve the bus. The buses, there just aren't always buses available certain seasons of the year.
That is a
That's-
commercial bus.
I would expect that.
All right.
Dr. Hassler, is that a visit to the garment district?
No.
Because it does, it's not specific. It's human services and consumer science class students.
Tech
Oh, and
prep.
tech prep students
prep.
too. Where are they going? What are they doing there?
They're going to New York, they're going to a program on the aging adult, and also a trip to Ellis Island, or it's at Ellis Island, I should say.
Okay, all right, well then that makes sense, because then you've got the ferry costs over and stuff, okay.
Yeah, but that's no problem.
Okay, any other questions to the right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, would say nay. Thank you.
I point out the information related to vandalism and move on to other business. Recommend approval of the intergovernmental agreement between the North End School District, Montgomery Township, and Montgomery County for the collection of real estate taxes for the period of January 1, 1998 through December 31, 2001.
So moved. Motion by Shelley, second by Shar. Questions to the left?
Oh, sorry, Pat.
Yeah, the only question I had is this common practice to ask us to pay 1/3 if they do any upgrades to their,
It's
to
actually,
their operation?
it's actually, Mr. Mosey, a trade-off. In the past, we have paid for office supplies, envelopes, and postage, which we will no longer pay for in the future. But the county, the township, and the school district will each pay 1/3 to the future cost of the upgrade of computer hardware and software. I questioned this, you can see I have it highlighted, and learned that that will not exceed $2,500. So the trade-off for the postage and the supplies and the envelopes is a considerable trade-off. I mean, it's, for all intent and purposes, it's a wash.
So in the future, well, we renew this every year though, right?
No, the station did 2001.
Oh, okay, so then we will pay $2,500 and that'll be it till the year
That'll be it.
2001?
I think so.
Thank you.
Okay.
I guess the only question I had, Art, is why the first time we engaged in this, it was a one-year contract, and now they're asking for a multi-year contract?
Sorry.
Well, I think it's to our advantage and to their advantage to do a multi-year. Initially, we were concerned about its success. We now know its success, and they're looking for some
Assurances.
assurances.
Okay, thank you.
Any more left? Right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, would say nay. Thank you.
Recommend approval of Core States Bank as a designated depository for funds received by tax collectors and the municipalities that compose the North Penn School District, and furthermore adopt the following resolution. That Core State Bank, N.A., a national banking association, be and it is hereby requested, authorized, and directed to honor and to charge this corporation for any and all checks drawn in the name of this corporation upon its tax collector accounts with the bank when bearing or purporting to bear facsimile signatures of any officers or any persons heretofore or hereafter authorized to sign checks on behalf of this corporation upon said accounts, no matter by whom, by what device, or how the actual or purported facsimile signatures may have been placed thereon. If such signatures have the appearance of the facsimile specimens from time to time filed with the bank. Now surely a lawyer must have written it.
I was going to say, that's an awful lot to read for a yes.
That was a mouthful.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion by Krieger, second by Shar. Questions to the right?
Comment. I'd like to say that this is a follow-through with the initiative for the sweep accounts. And as we had established those accounts according to the tax collectors at the local level, this now has one place for that money to be automatically swept into. And Mr. Tracy had to pick that up when he came in from where Dennis had left off, and this is a follow-through to bring that forward for the greatest efficiency in the collection of interest on the revenues as they're paid by the taxpayer to the tax collector. Strongly urge you to do this, and I'm glad to see this wrapped up. I'd also like to see if we would revisit the aspect of this that says authorize to sign checks. I'm not in the motion, not related to the tax collectors, but that whole authorization issue on check signatures and just who's designated and how many signatures we have under that authority at another time. That's it.
Okay, to the left. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, would say nay. Thank you.
Madam
Treasurer's
President, before we move on, I would just like to ask Dr. Hassler, do you have any schedule set up when you're going to have these meetings with your technical curriculum people? I mean,
I have a date, I just don't remember it. It's sometime in early November.
Do you have projected out how often you're going to meet, or?
Well, we're scheduling the first two meetings, and then we'll develop a schedule from there.
Okay. Well,
probably looking at every other week,
well,
possibly.
when you get a more definitive schedule, are you kind enough to pass that on to the board members so we can monitor that? Thank you.
Okay, treasurer's report and budget transfers, Mr. Ward.
Treasurer's report, balance of investment June 30th, 1997, $13,851,219.71. Cash receipts September 1997, $27,615,904.92. Cash receipts year to date, $80,100,892.97. Cash disbursements September 1997, $13,997,808.50. Cash disbursements year to date, $26,575,640.10. Total available funds, $67,376,482.58. Total short-term investments, $16,050,406.53. Total long-term investments, $51 million. Interest-bearing checking account, $326,066.05. Total investments for September 1997, $67,376,472.58. Recommend approval of the above listed budget transfers for 1997-98 fiscal year in the amount of $1,225.
So moved.
Motion by Shar,
Second.
second by Allen. Questions to the left? Right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, would say nay. Thank you.
Recommend approval of the above listed transfers for the 1996-97 fiscal year in the amount of $1,328,400.
Second.
Motion by Schilling, second by Moses. Question to the right?
Art, I'd like to know, the previous budget transfer that we just dealt with, which has budget transfers of smaller amounts coming forward in October, I hope that's a sign that we will not be facing this situation in the future.
We're moving in a direction whereby we would like to transfer throughout the year so that we don't come back after we balance our books, have an audit report, and make a transfer in the nature of $1,328,400.
I think my sentiments on this have been heard in past years, and I'm glad to see them coming forward in a more timely fashion. think it's important also because it gives us a truer perspective when we sit down here at budget time. We're now, we've got better numbers, and to retroactively now be switching these things all around would have given us a whole different perspective at budget time than what we had. I appreciate it, and I'd like you to pass that on to Ms. Steady, please, for me.
I will in the morning.
See that coming, thank you.
All right, to the left. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Thank you.
Sanction and approval of invoices for general fund. To be sanctioned, disbursements for the month of September. General fund, prepaid list, $8,217,655.09. Bond fund, $654,966.27. Payroll, $5,230,302.24. Voided checks, $2,388.25 for a total to be sanctioned in the amount of $14,100,535.35. To be approved, disbursements for the month of October from the check register in the amount of $950,033.58.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Moses, second by Shar. Questions to the left? Right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Food service report for September 1997. Total income, $447,063.84. Gross profit on sales, $302,600.20. Net profit year-to-date is, or for the month of September, is $15,563.93. I would only say quickly to the board that with the reduction of lunch prices, our participation has gone up. Our total income last September was $376,000 versus $447,000. We served 128,673 lunches versus 101. So I think your price reduction, the increased continued quality of the food is bringing us more people.
Less is better.
There you go. There you go. Jeez, what a wonderful year we're having. Despite the critics. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Federal programs, Dr. Post.
No report.
Oh, there you go.
And the
Solicitor's
solicitor's already
report.
had his.
Thank you, I think that's accurate.
That's accurate.
Since I'm the only thing between you and the door this evening.
You could get knocked down.
To adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?